Yo, let's fucking go get this place. Haven't played this for a couple of days. Hey, oh, and the people don't know. What if we go like that? Go like that. Can we go like that a little bit? God damn, really? Really? Yeah, that's it. Okay. Holy shit, hello? Hello? Are you dumb or stupid? Dumb, stupid, or dumb? Oh, now you're gonna try and track me again, huh? Oh my god, I hate you. Sometimes I hate you. Sometimes you're okay. Never really great, though. Never really great.
Sometimes I feel like you're just not the way I'd like you to be.
Who be texting me now? I gotta put up the Discord. Oh my god, what's going on with Disco? Grab yourself, put yourself over here. Start from there. Pending install, downloading. We got a lot of updates to do tonight, huh? What's happening with my game? Oh, finally I get in. Cool. As soon as I launch it.
Medea, all good with me. I know where we want to be. Follow me.
Introducing your champion. in. Hang on. I think it may have been spotted.
Enemy over there.
In the center.
Froggo!
Firing.
Listen up, I'm getting shot at.
Broken enemy shield. Got some material.
Patching myself up a bit. Well,
Getting shot at.
just giving my shields a recharge.
Need to recharge my shields.
Come on, Nick.
Enemy over there.
Say hello.
First blood. Someone's got a shot on me. Pretty sure. They spotted me. I'm taking shots.
Attention.
Grenade.
Champion has been eliminated.
Going to face. Champion fell. Need to recharge my shields. They spotted me.
Enemy down.
Enemy over there.
Reloading. Line, I gotcha. We're all inside the ring. Good.
Charging my shields.
Reloading.
Attention. There is a new kill leader.
New kill leader. Go and watch out. Help run if you need it.
Attention.
Are they shooting you?
Looks like a care package is coming in. Big things in that. Taking fire.
Shield broken. Killed an enemy.
Reloading. Recharging my shields.
Frag out.
I'm down.
Finish him. There you go.
That was a lot. This won't hurt. Hold on.
Help John if you need it. Just giving my shields a recharge. Come and get your birthday present.
Right ammo here. Recharging my shields.
Took out a cargo box. Evo shield here. Level 2. I got myself a vault key. Listen up, got a vault key here.
I don't know how to use that thing.
Picked up a vault key. I see a loot vault over there, and I made the right choice. Got the key in hand.
helmet here. Level 2.
Extended lift tank here. Level 2. Zipline here.
Kill leader eliminated.
Where you going, bro?
I see a loot vault over there, and I made the right choice. Got the key in hand.
New kill leader appointed.
New kill leader. Go on, watch out.
Beginning ring countdown.
You going where I think you're going?
New kill leader appointed.
New kill leader. Watch for them.
We gotta hurry, because there's a people fighting.
Attention. Delivering replicator.
Got a replicator coming
Care
down.
package over there. I opened the vault. Might be good this time. Gotta hop up here. This barrel stabilizer here. Level 3.
I need none of that. I'm not going the way. Are you gonna go to that
One
fight?
minute. Ring's not far. Getting shot at. Rope up down.
Frog out. 45 seconds. Ring. Down and I gotcha. Fast me down. Listen up, I'm getting shot at. Just giving my shields a recharge. 30 seconds of justice.
Whoa, sick death, dude.
I can go to that fight. Why didn't you go to that fight?
In the middle of the Sonoran Desert, hidden behind Border Patrol vehicles and makeshift tents, were hundreds upon hundreds of migrants, all of whom who hopped the U.S.-Mexico border in the past couple hours. It was a shocking sight. People from all around the world, herded like cattle on the cold desert floor, sitting in silence, awaiting an uncertain future. Despite these conditions, spirits are generally high. Because most of these people have traveled days, weeks, and even months just to get here. About 3/4 of them are single males, but there are also many children.
America is at a breaking point with record levels of illegal immigration.
These people's lives are at the center of the national conversation, but they could care less. They have finally made it. to the land of opportunity, a nation allegedly founded upon the principles of liberty and radical individuality, where anyone from any walk of life can make something out of themselves.
I guess they call them detainees. They've been walking on this road. This road runs for 12 miles, 12 or 13 miles. What it does is it parallels our border fence. On the other side of it, on the Mexican side of it, is Mexican Highway 2. So the cartels have a really easy job. They just bring the people off of Highway 2 and then through the wall. The wall has many of those cuts that I told you about earlier, where they run the people through. And so the immigrants just walk down this road.
Right, so as you guys can probably see right here, that's a group of 5 migrants who just hopped the border, and they're walking directly into Border Patrol custody
to join the seated group of migrants that we just encountered.
So typically when you think of the border, at least me personally, I thought it was like people hop and then try to evade Border Patrol and make their way to a large U.S. city to start a new life. But in this case, you can see they are putting themselves directly in the custody of Border Patrol to begin the asylum-seeking process. Like they're not trying to evade or anything.
A Border Patrol agent agreed to speak with us, but didn't want to go on camera. Normally, agents are not allowed to be interviewed, and all press requests are typically deferred to a public information officer who rarely ever responds. But in this instance, the agent seemed exhausted and eager to tell me what was going on.
No, there's very few of them evading.
How come?
Well, because they allow them in. They don't evade because they'll let them come in, they'll load them in the vans, they take them up to Phoenix, give them a $3,000 gift card and a cell phone and send them wherever they want to go. You get a court date. You have 2 years to show up in court. That's the reason they give them a phone, because they're saying if they don't give me a phone, I don't know when I'm supposed to go to court. So they give them a phone.
At first, I was confused what the Border Patrol agent meant when he kept referring to they. To the naked eye, it appears that Border Patrol is the one handling and processing the migrants, but they're only the first step in a chain of bureaucratic authority that goes up to the Department of Homeland Security, then finally up to the Department of Justice's Executive Office for Immigration Review, which is more or less controlled by the Biden administration, who've taken a much more open-arms approach to immigration after pulling back Title 42 just about a year ago. But despite pushing for more lax border laws in comparison with President Trump,
The wall just got 10 feet taller, believe me.
Biden hasn't done anything to make the process of applying for citizenship any faster. In fact, it still takes between 18 to 24 months to get a response on a citizenship application. And it's actually possible to be denied citizenship if you fail to memorize and regurgitate fun facts about the history of America.
How many amendments does the Constitution have?
It has 27 amendments.
Good. Which group of people was taken to America and sold as slaves?
Africans.
Good. Excellent.
So it makes sense why a lot of migrants, many of whom are facing desperate circumstances, avoid the citizenship application process altogether. I wonder if my great-great-grandparents, who were economic refugees that fled Ireland in the wake of the potato famine, experienced such an arduous process when they arrived to America illegally. Unlike these migrants who arrived at the southern border, my family arrived from the boats to Ellis Island 115 years ago. Much like Jacob and Alberto, who we interviewed in our previous episode on the border crisis, they found themselves in a strange new land with pennies to their name. They had no particular plans, but what they did have was the willpower and determination to work as hard as they could with the hopes of one day providing a brighter future for their family. And it worked. And that's all thanks to Grandpa Jerry, who died 30 years before I was born. I wonder if he was asked who Paul Revere was, or what the Boston Tea Party was all about. Was there a concern back then that these migrants weren't American enough to join our society? Or is that way of thinking a new phenomenon, driven by the paranoia of a white minority?
An analysis of census data from the Brookings Institute projects the number of white Americans will fall below 50% for the first time ever in about 20 years, 2045.
Or perhaps it's less about race and more about the burden of inheriting global poverty, when we have so many problems of our own. I guess times have changed a lot, too. It's not like there was fentanyl or cartels, and most immigrants plan to move to America forever, not stack up money here and go back home. I don't have the answers, but I do have a lot of questions. One question, how can we propagandize the entire world with our dream through Hollywood, the music industry, and the testimonies of self-made American billionaires, while simultaneously exploiting the labor, crops, and raw earth materials of developing nations, freezing the economies of our political opponents through trade sanctions, and creating rival drug cartels with our insatiable appetite for cocaine, fentanyl, meth, and heroin, and not expect a global economic refugee crisis at the southern border. But that being said, no matter where you stand on illegal immigration, I think we can all agree that our system, as it currently stands, is broken.
We have a legal process for immigrants, and it's being done by some, but it takes forever. You know, so it needs to be sped up for those with skills and those who want to come and build skills and be Americans and be proud to be here, work and better their lives and their families. And the treacherous journey that they have to take across the border and through the desert, you're losing lives that way.
No.
And so I just hope in 2024 we can rectify this problem and help those who want to get here legally.
It appears that all of the migrants who were walking directly into Border Patrol's hands were approaching from a westbound road called Puerto Blanco Drive, a narrow dirt pathway running through the national park. So I decided to drive down the road to see if I could find some migrants to speak to. First, we see some signage, warning us of what's to come. Truthfully, I don't expect to see much, but as I continue down the road, they seem to be spawning out thin air from all angles. Most of them in a rush, we're told, because their cartel coyotes told them they had to get to the Border Patrol facility by nightfall in order to be transferred to a larger processing center or dropped off in a major city. But I noticed a group of a few of them walking pretty slowly, so I called them over to the car to see if they want to talk. What you guys doing? Where are you guys from? From Senegal? You're in America. How does it feel? What's the plan? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Can you guys tell me about your life in Senegal? How was your life in Senegal? How you guys doing? Welcome to the United States. Where you from, man? Senegal. You guys are from Senegal? Yeah. Okay, cool. You speak any English? Oh, cool. So, how was your guys' life in Senegal?
Well, the life in Senegal is very, very hard.
Chaos and unrest in Senegal once again. The opposition leader urged supporters to take to the streets to protest against his jail sentence.
The government is bad. Opposition are very difficult to manifest her problem. We are here to get another life for our family, for our people. We are very tired in Senegal. Senegal is very hard. That's why we come here to get another life, no?
Yeah.
The American people is a good people.
Yeah.
No? They are democracy. They are good life. No.
What kind of work do you want to do?
Me? I was a soldier in Senegal. I do two years in the army, you know. After my 2 years, I was a security period, you know.
Security. Okay. So you're gonna look for a security job?
Oh yeah.
And well, best of luck, man. I appreciate you guys. Hope everything goes well. Okay. See you guys later. See you, man. Yeah. See you guys. After stopping to speak for a bit, the group of Senegalese men headed westbound toward the Border Patrol facility. We, however, kept driving. As you continue to drive along the border wall, you can see people popping out from under the wall in a specific part of the fence that's being guarded by an SUV on the Mexican side. Nearby, I see a group of mothers and children who appear to have recently just crossed the wall. They tell me they're migrants from Michoacan. The mother of these children, who personally financed their trip, says she's willing to talk to me. Mi pregunta es, ¿cómo fue tu vida en México?
Pues muy cruel, hay muchos asaltos, matación, todo eso.
¿Es muy pobre?
Sí.
¿Por qué quieres ir a los Estados Unidos?
Porque como le comenté, estamos huyendo de la delincuencia y para un futuro para nosotros.
¿Qué quieres para tus hijos? ¿Es tu primera vez en los Estados Unidos?
Sí, la primera vez.
¿Y qué piensas?
Pues que pues echarle ganas con los hijos, sacarlos adelante y no... sacarlos de la violencia.
¿Hay mucha violencia?
Sí, mucha. Por la gente que andan pues así, como robando, quitando a los niños y todo.
¿Pero es peligroso para los niños también?
Sí, es peligroso.
¿Qué tipo de trabajo prefieres?
Pues yo dependí de un trabajo que sea un road
¿Y tienes planes para asilo?
Sí, para eso ven, para que me den apoyo.
¿Qué significa asilo?
Pues que ayudan a las personas con los niños que vienen de México para acá.
¿Es un proceso fácil?
Pues yo digo que sí.
¿Y vas a sola hablar con la amiga y decir yo tengo problemas en mi país?
Sí, así es.
Sí. ¿Tienes una ciudad que quieres ir?
A California.
¿California? ¿Qué ciudad en California?
Victorville.
Victorville.
Ajá.
¿Tienes familia en Victorville?
Sí, tengo familia.
¿Fue tan caro el viaje?
Sí, fue caro.
¿Cuánto?
10,000.
10,000 para cada persona o todo.
Para los viajes y más aparte que nos piden 12. Sí, cada persona.
Necesitas trabajar para un año para eso, ¿sí?
Sí,
¿Y tienes miedo de deportar?
pues sí tengo.
Sí. Pero no sabes ahora si es en tu futuro.
Pues no sé. Dependiendo ya de que esté allá con la migra, ellos deciden.
¿Qué piensas sobre la migra?
Pues yo pienso que nos van a ayudar, ¿no? Para eso van. Ojalá nos ayude.
Cuando tú fuiste joven, ¿tienes sueños de los Estados Unidos?
Pues sí tengo sueño.
¿Por qué?
Pues porque pues dicen que hay mucho trabajo bien y todo.
¿Piensas que todas las personas en México quieren ir aquí?
Yo digo que sí.
Okay. ¿Qué piensas? Ok, muchas gracias. Hasta luego. Sí. Midway through my shoot, I had an interesting revelation. It seemed that almost every migrant of Latin American descent, particularly Mexican, that I talked to, said they were leaving their hometown because of threats from gangs or being kidnapped by the cartel. In our previous episode, Arizona Border Crisis, we spoke to two different migrants, Alberto and Roberto, who reported similar stories.
Por los carteles nos sacaron de las casas.
¿Qué ciudad de México, amigos?
En Veracruz, es que gobierna el cártel de Jalisco.
Sí.
Sí, pues te piden cuota y como si no tienes dinero, ¿de dónde le vas a dar?
Sí.
Y pues te sacan de tus casas. Somos el grupo Matacetas y estamos amenazados que no podemos regresar.
Hay mucho movimiento de eso de las drogas y todo.
Sí.
Muy feo.
However, many locals and law enforcement personnel believe they're being disingenuous when they make these sorts of claims, because applying for asylum requires the proof of persecution or imminent danger. During the asylum-seeking process, it's typically not enough to declare that you're simply poor and looking for a better life elsewhere. You have to provide ample justification that it's actually dangerous for you to stay in your hometown or your home country. And even then, many claims are rejected. And so claiming that the cartel is personally after you is a really easy way to be granted asylum, especially because there's no real intelligence apparatus to confirm or deny the authenticity of this threat. The concerned citizen of mysterious origin who we met at the Arizona border last episode claims that cartel coyotes that control the human smuggling route around the Lukeville Gringo Pass area are coaching these migrants in how to explain themselves to press and Border Patrol agents.
The cartel or somebody is coaching them because they virtually say the same thing. Oh, that their lives are in danger from gangs in these areas, and they've been threatened with kidnapping. And we've even found a notebook that had those kind of answers written down as if the person was rehearsing these statements to say when they were, when they confronted the Border Patrol.
To be honest, this made perfect sense to me. I'm not for a second dismissing that narco-violence has had a significantly negative impact on the civilian population in Mexico, especially in places like Ciudad Juarez, where hundreds of women have been found murdered for no apparent reason. But I found it difficult to believe that cartels were systematically kidnapping local children in their own communities and squeezing their non-affiliated, already struggling parents for ransom pesos. It seemed like they had bigger fish to fry, like supplying the open-air trank market of Philadelphia, or the fentanyl market of San Francisco. That being said, even if these migrants were lying, or at least greatly exaggerating the cartel threat, they've still gone to extreme lengths to reach the United States. So their situation back home is obviously pretty hopeless. If anything, it's more sad that they have to present their situation in this way in order to be able to engage our immigration courts. However, some people, like the gentleman we interviewed, believe even the poverty they claim to come from is also a lie.
The part that alarms me, what you used to see 10 years ago, you would find these cheap Chinese-made camouflage backpacks that were purchased by the crossers through border. And then we get across the border, the backpacks would invariably break or something like that. Now we're finding these Louis Vuitton leather backpacks. We found one just the other day that was lying on the ground. We opened it up. In the top compartment, there was a bottle of cologne and a UCB Seacourt. Neck pillows. This was lying on the ground. We opened it up. In the top compartment, there was a bottle of cologne and a UCB Seacourt. Neck pillows. This is a different demographic.
I decided to walk through the Sonoran Desert to see if what the man was saying was true by inspecting backpacks left behind by migrants.
You guys, guess what it is? USB-C charger.
Shh, staying fresh. Another luxury item.
Yeah, it's kind of like a passport. It's an international certificate of vaccination stamped from the Republic of Guinea.
See what else is in here?
Oh, lo and behold, the aforementioned, totally authentic Gucci slipper. We spoke to this gentleman earlier, if you guys remembered, who mentioned that these migrants, unlike the old migrants, are bringing like luxury items like Gucci purses, Louis Vuitton flip-flops,
Louis Vuitton,
Prada bags and stuff like that. And so as you can see here, someone has left behind a Gucci slipper, but as you can see, it's not actually Gucci. It says on the heel right here, Zaza. Obviously in America, Zaza is a type of weed.
Zaza, what's Zaza? Where's Zaza? The best weed in Florida. Best weed everywhere. Come on now. We don't bullshit.
But internationally, I would assume it is a variant knockoff of Gucci with the pattern, which leads to another theme, which is the mass production of knockoff luxury and designer goods in the third world. I don't know if you guys have been to Vietnam or Nigeria before, but the place is fucking Gucci down.
Another thing I noticed along the border fence were blue flags and water stations that were placed every quarter mile on the way toward the Border Patrol facility.
Yes, as you guys can see, pretty much all along the border fence, like this entire way, every quarter mile or so, you'll see these giant blue flags. I'm not sure who puts them there, but they're basically what I'm assuming to be emergency medical services. They have like a giant thing of water right here. So if you want to get some water, you can obviously get some water and shit. They have cups here.
Upon further research, these tanks of water and flags are left behind by Humane Borders, aka Fronteras Compasivas, an Arizona-based nonprofit that sets up hundreds of water stations along the border to provide hydration to migrants, which in the summertime, as temperatures can rise to above 120 degrees in the desert, can be a matter of life or death.
People dying out in the desert. They were dying because they didn't have any water. So the next day I read another article of 2 people died because they didn't have any water. So the third day, there was a mother and a daughter that died out here in the desert because they didn't have water. So I got pissed off. I said I have to do something 7 days a week. We're out here in the field putting out water for the migrants.
If you're interested in donating, please go to humaneborders.org/donate. Last year alone, nearly 100 migrants died crossing the border in that 5-mile section where we filmed this video. And the sheer number of migrant deaths that occur in the Arizona desert as a whole, solely as a result of dehydration, is staggering. This in mind, 75% of migrant deaths happen in the summer months, so it's no surprise the winter months of December and January see the highest migrant traffic by a large margin.
Right now. Where you coming from?
Yeah, I'm from West Africa.
Oh shit.
From Guinea, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy, ball. Yeah, by God in power, you know? Respect.
How long has your journey been so far?
Oh, though. Nothing to say. That's fucked up, though.
How'd you get to Mexico?
Oh, yeah, so... let me drink a lot of water fresh after that, so we can talk, okay?
You want some water? Yeah. We got them, brother, we got them. How long ago did you leave Guinea?
It's been a 2 week.
Okay.
Guinea. After Guinea, so Senegal, Dakar. Go take to the plane to go Istanbul, 28 hours to escort. Then Istanbul to Bogota, San Salvador, Nicaragua. So you pick up the car to go to the borderline to Nicaragua and Honduras. You know, then you go to immigration Honduras just to take one paper. You know, then take a bus, Honduras, Guatemala,
What these
Mexico.
bloody games need is a bit
Mexico,
of
the
old
cops,
school.
Mexico. Yeah, my bro, damn.
Like the Mexican border patrol.
Mexican boy, Joe, I spending $5,000.
They extorted you.
Yeah, though. The guy just take me my watch, my heart, in my airport, you know, because I don't have the money, man, you know, in my pocket. I use my card. Yeah, my bank. My car bank, you know.
So you finally made it to Mexico, and then what happened?
Then finally in Mexico, we take one bus to go Chapachula. Chapachula is too far. Then, yeah, Chapachula, we take one bus again to continue Arriaga. Arriaga again, we take a taxi, the yellow car. Yellow car, then bike, a horse, to the three cyclists bike. After that, Fujitan. Then after Fujitan, Mexico City. Mexico City, we go to the bus station to buy a ticket. Right, we take the bus again. 2,070 miles.
From bus in Mexico City.
Exactly, yeah. 2,070 miles.
And you ended up near here.
2 days in the bus. You know, then when you arrive there, so I make it 2 days because I met the the Mexican girl enter the bus station. She got so much love for me, bro. Yeah, she followed me and the first meet. This is the Mexico bus station. You know how big. Yeah, just to drink one beer again, you know, it's parking. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Yeah. Oh, damn. Back. It's not easy, but thank God.
So what's your plan now, bro?
My plan for the next episode.
Yeah.
After these things, but
This is my way.
difficult to explain. But that's in God power.
As the sun began to set and darkness approached, we figured it was safer to go back to the Border Patrol facility. When we returned, migrant population had doubled, and spirits were considerably lower than they were in the early afternoon when we first arrived.
¿Qué pasa? Ya nos vamos.
¿Tienes hambre? ¿Dónde eres?
De Guatemala.
¿Estás bien?
Sí.
¿Qué pasa, mi amigo?
Tengo hambre.
¿Cómo fue tu viaje?
Estoy muriendo de hambre. Solo hablo tanto.
¿Tienes comida? Yo tengo. There's a food in the car, right?
Who the fuck decided to drop here late? Huh? Who the fuck in their right mind thought that shit? I know the AFK dog shit player, right?
It wasn't me. How could I drop us here, you dumb shit?
Then why the fuck are you just standing there with the thumb up your ass?
I'm not. I'm eating the pizza. I know you're gonna hot drop immediately.
Tengo cuatro. Son 6 mis hijos. 3 varones y 3 mujeres.
¿Y ellos viven en Guatemala?
Sí, vivo en Guatemala. Sí.
¿Y por qué viajes a los Estados Unidos?
That's for you to finally join us, holy
Es
shit.
que allá no tengo terreno, no tengo casa donde vivir.
Oh, die.
Por esa razón tengo que viajar. Sí, pero tengo que esperar la voluntad de Dios. Sí.
¿Crees en Dios?
Sí, soy cristiano.
Sí. ¿Católico o no?
No, soy evangélico. Sí, soy evangélico.
¿Y qué quieres hacer aquí en los Estados Unidos?
Quiero superar, sacar adelante mi familia.
¿Quieres trabajar?
Sí, quiero trabajar.
¿Qué tipo de trabajo quieres hacer?
Sea, lo que caiga, yo rasque mi vida. Sí.
¿Tienes una ciudad que quieres ir o no?
Lo que sea. Sí. Y mi cuñado va a encontrar allá en los Estados Unidos. Sí.
¿O es tu primera vez en los Estados
Es mi
Unidos?
primera vez.
¿Qué piensas?
Sí. Sí, estoy pensando en viajar, pero lamentablemente salió muy mal el viaje. Va.
¿Qué lo pasó en el viaje?
Pues mire, cuántos días ya llevo un mes de venir acá y pasando en los bodegos y así está pasando también. Y aquí no hay comida, no hay nada.
Sí.
¿Cuántos días fue tu viaje?
30 días. Me lleva 30 días, ahorita un mes cabal.
¿Fue caro?
Sí.
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 ¿Cuánto cuesta para todo?
¿Cómo así?
¿Cuánto cuesta para usted viajar?
Como 100,000. Sí, 100,000 me sale comprando. Sí. Y como para pagar eso, si no me voy.
¿Fue peligroso?
Sí, fue peligroso.
¿Por qué?
Porque nos venimos de escondido. Sí.
¿Sientes que la gente americana está bien?
Sí, sí, está un poco bien, pero no, pongamos uno, si va a encontrar uno, lo matan porque no lo conozca uno.
Midway through my interview with Miguel Yate, I began to put two and two together. When Miguel referred to having to hide a lot while crossing the border, he wasn't referring to coyotes. He may have been referring to one of the many civilian border militias that often lurk the perimeter of the border fence.
The local sheriff does not welcome their presence on Arizona's border with Mexico if they say they're not breaking the law.
In many documented cases, these militia groups are alleged to have opened fire indiscriminately on migrants crossing the border fence illegally.
Sí.
¿Tienes familia o amigos aquí?
No, no tengo, vengo solo. No tengo nada.
Break my fucking heart there, buddy.
Keep your feet on the ground. Borrow strength.
Get ready. Today is not gonna be easy.
Let's go find them all.
Introducing your champion.
Identify yourself. Cause I'm the best. Got you on my side.
Time for a little shock and awe.
I do not fight to be accepted. I fight to be free of your accept. I do not fight to be accepted. I fight to be free of your accept. I do not fight to be accepted. I fight to be free of your acceptance.
Let's trot. That spot's calling to us.
First blood. Should have seen that coming.
I'd like to be a part of it. New York, New York. What?
The ring's closing in one. We're not very
Start
close.
spreading the
New kill leader.
news.
Watch for them.
Don't tell me you killed my computer, no. I'd like to
For a peek
be
into
a
the
part
future,
of it.
check your map. I found the next ring.
New York, New York.
45 seconds. Ring's far.
Took some
You're
material.
gonna start me. This hurt me. Anywhere. It's up to you. New York, New York. Oh. New York. New York.
Extended life magazine here. Level 2.
Backpack here. Level 1.
We're all outside the ring. You want a future to read? Get moving.
Energy ammo here. Rampage here.
kill leader. Eyes out for him.
Wait, I'm not Lifeline? What is going on? What the fuck? Those vagabond blues. They're leaving. Okay. Gotta be a part of it. New York, New York. If I can make it there, I'll make it. Anywhere for you. New York. New York.
Oh. New York, you say? Why didn't you say something sooner?
Who's texting me now?
Our enemies left a few telltale signs behind.
I don't know who it is. Like to find out who's texting me now.
You need some alone time.
Then I'll just run with my keyboard.
Gathering materials.
Listen up, I'm calling a lifeline package in.
Gathering materials.
Of the squad
Attention, the champion has been eliminated.
Crafting. That champion thought too highly of themselves.
Crafting, but keeping focused. Backpack here. Level 2.
Evo shield here. Level 2. Careful. It sounds like an enemy nearby. Gathering materials.
Round 2. Beginning ring countdown.
Next ring's far.
Replicator being delivered.
Replicator falling to Earth. Let's head that way.
Target spotted.
They're focusing on me.
Nice, getting shot at. Boy jumping. Punching a tunnel.
Enemy in my sight.
Portal's ready. One second, we got this. Need to recharge my shields.
45 seconds. Deploying health drone.
Warning. Ring movement in progress. New kill leader appointed.
Got our squad mate's banner.
Attention. Delivering care package.
Picked up our teammate's banner.
This is bullshit.
Phasing. Catching myself up. Catching myself up. Catching myself up. Need to recharge my shields. Catching myself up. That rings far, I know. Got a replicator coming in. Rings far, minute to go. Recharging my shields. Catching myself up. 45 seconds. Far ring. Got this.
There's a death box out there.
Let's regroup here. Death box here.
That was a nice communion with her. We're all outside the ring. You want to speak for Kareem? Get moving.
Placing a portal.
Looks like a care package is coming in. Big things in that.
You're being aimed at. Set the portal. Going to phase. Got a replicator here. Crafting. Give me a sec.
Crafting. Not the first time I've made something out of dust and dreams.
Making contact with enemy.
New kill leader appointed. Attention. The kill leader has
New kill
been
leader.
eliminated.
Watch for
Kill
them.
leader appointed.
Hold on. I'm healing.
Kill leader eliminated. Round 4. Beginning ring countdown.
Come on, Witcher. Say hello.
Care package over there.
Rings nearby. 1 minute till close.
Rings close. Phoenix kid here.
You're being aimed at. They're focusing on me. Grenade is coming. My shields need a bit more power. Pierce their hearts. And their feet.
I'm spotted. Taking fire.
Come on,
Quick line and I gotcha.
wow. Looks like the next ring. Come on, get to this spot. Recharging shields.
Recharging my shields.
Deploying health drone. Charging myself up a bit. Recharging my shields.
I'll give them a kick.
Got another set. I'm down.
Only you and me left. They spotted me. I'm taking shots.
I'm getting shot. My shields need a bit more power.
Healing up. Eyes are open though. Good. We're inside.
Recharging shields.
Recharging my shields. They spotted me. I'm taking shots.
Getting shot. Another squad. Down. Grenade.
Only 10 seconds left.
You're being aimed at.
Follow the tunnel.
Yeah, probably not. You're dead.
That's bullshit, bro. That's super bullshit. That's super, super, super bullshit.
Solo.
Solo vengo.
¿Vas a hacer asilo político?
Sí,
¿Es fácil para hacer eso?
pues no sé, fíjate. Me concede un trabajo, va. Me voy con usted. Necesito recuperar mi familia, más seguro.
¿Tienes una esposa?
Sí, tengo. Sí, por eso tengo que salir.
¿Qué tipos de trabajo te gusta?
Pues lo que hay, yo voy a trabajar. Lo que sea, sí, voy a hacer.
¿Puedes hablar inglés?
No puedo. No, solo español.
Pero puedes decir cosas como hello en inglés, ¿sí?
Puede ser, sí, aprendiendo.
¿Hay mucha gente de pobreza en Guatemala?
Bien hay.
¿Y cuando tú fuiste joven fue pobreza también?
Sí, pude correr. No tengo casa, no tengo terreno. Es la misma. Por eso tengo que ir a ganar dinero para superar mi familia.
¿Dónde vive tu familia ahora? ¿En una casa?
Pues solo tenemos prestado una casa nomás.
¿Hay mucha violencia en Guatemala?
Pues la verdad que no hay. Solo pobreza, que no hay dinero, no hay trabajo, pues. Sí.
¿Qué es tu sueño para tu vida?
Mi sueño, pues, regreso un día, compro mi autobús o mi carro a comprar mi terreno y a construir mi casa.
Sí.
Sí.
Soon after our conversation, Miguel's name was called, and he, along with hundreds of other migrants, began gathering in a single-file line to board commuter buses, which were told leave the migrant processing center at 6:30 p.m. sharp every day. Groups of 40 to 50 people, often called micro-caravans, begin emerging and heading toward the bus to get a good place in line. Hola, bienvenidos, ¿cómo estás? ¿A dónde eres?
México.
¿Cuántos días fue tu vieja?
2 días ya.
¿Estás bien?
Sí, aunque cansados, pero
¿Asilo aquí? No.
sí, ha sido político, porque ahora sí que por problemas de la comunidad y algo que le pasa a mí. Se mete mucho la gente mala con los niños, entonces de verdad yo quisiera que me apoyaran para sacar a mi hijo, porque yo no quiero que a mi hijo le hagan ningún daño. Pues ahí sí yo preferiría algo como de cocina o en alguna casa de limpieza.
Sí.
Me he costado llegar hasta aquí y batallándole con mi hijo.
¿Y qué ciudad prefieres?
Presto Valley, Arizona.
Ok, sí, muy cerca.
Sí.
¿Quieres decir una cosa para los americanos?
Pues que nos apoyen y ahora sí que nos vean con buena cara, porque pues yo pienso que todos merecemos algo mejor, ¿no?
Sí. Good luck, guys. After our brief interview, the mother and her son headed to the bus line, and to my surprise, more and more migrants began emerging from all angles headed toward the bus. I wanted to speak to some more people about what their journey was like and what sort of life they expect in the United States, but it seemed like the commuter bus was probably reaching its maximum capacity given the amount of people I saw gathered nearby. So I figured the best place to continue doing interviews was actually in line, where Border Patrol agents were checking migrants' passports and photographing them for documentation purposes. Despite a gentleman's earlier claim that we have no idea who these people are because they shed all of their ID after hopping the border wall.
What they do is when they come through the wall, they shed any type of ID. No one has any idea who these people are.
Almost everybody in line had valid passports and documentation, like this pair of cousins, who came directly from Guatemala, and initially told me they left because of violence and extortions.
Hay mucha violencia y la economía.
¿Qué tipo de violencia?
Te le digo extorsiones.
Ok.
Extorsiones.
¿Y ustedes tienen familia aquí?
Sí, mis hijos están acá, en Los Ángeles, California.
¿Tus hijos están aquí?
Sí, yo vengo luchando por estar con ellos. Intenté 2 veces, pero nada más me quedó un retiro.
¿Cuántos años tienen tus hijos?
El primero tiene 21, la segunda 17 y el chiquito 12.
¿Y qué tipo de trabajo quieres hacer?
Pues a mí me encanta trabajar en casa, en el restaurante y cuidar niños también.
¿Es difícil para cruzar la frontera aquí? ¿Fue caro o no?
Pues la verdad que como venimos así viajando nosotros por nuestra propia cuenta, pero sí, 18.
¿Cada persona?
Sí,
¿Piensas que América es una tierra de oportunidad?
sí, la verdad que sí, no queda la menor duda. Sí.
Sí. ¿Por qué?
Porque nos da oportunidad de trabajar y, o sea, ganar mejor que en nuestro país.
Y por eso sale de nuestra tierra, uno nos abandona, pero es por algo bueno, para apoyarlo.
Tus padres son en Guatemala.
Solamente él.
I began to learn that it wasn't necessarily safety or quality of life that made America a better choice than Central America. You're actually much more likely to become a victim of property crime in somewhere like Detroit, New Orleans, Baltimore, or even San Francisco than you are in rural Honduras or Guatemala. It more has to do with our minimum wage and the dramatically inflated value of the US dollar in developing nations. For some perspective on just how lopsided our economies are, let's use the standard 9-to-5 American work week as a measurement unit. So that's 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, totaling 40 hours of work every week. With our federal minimum wage, which is about $7.25 an hour, that would mean the average American minimum wage worker makes $290 per week before taxes. If you work that same job in Guatemala City, under the minimum wage that they set, which is weekly, not hourly, you make 846 quetzales a week, which is about $108. Meaning, even if you're making the bare minimum in America, washing dishes, picking berries, or cleaning houses, you'd still be making triple what you make in Guatemala or Honduras working the exact same job. It's almost common sense for a lot of these migrants to enter America, work as hard as they can, save up a bunch of money, and then go live a nice life back in their home country. And on a domestic level, it's actually happening in America, especially on the West Coast. Due to the skyrocketing cost of living, absurdly high tax rates, and overall mismanagement of California,
The LAO said lawmakers and the governor should consider billions in cuts to programs, including those related to education, the environment, and transportation.
hundreds of thousands of upper-income Californians, especially those working in the tech sector, where stay-at-home remote work has become the norm, have fled the state en masse to reside elsewhere, in states like Arizona, Idaho, Montana, and of course, Texas, where the cost of living is significantly lower and the tax codes are much more relaxed.
Three big names in tech are all packing for Texas.
It has to do with taxes. The states that have been winning more recently are the states that don't have any state income tax or corporate taxes.
This mass exodus of Californians has disrupted the economies and political landscapes of many of these states, causing many Texans to adopt slogans like, "Don't California my Texas," which refers to the progressive political views often held by California's economic migrants, who are, of course, seeking tax havens in red states.
Texas doesn't want you.
Politics aside, these migrations have been successful in saving Californians a ton of money in the long run. To be honest, I personally moved out of California for economic purposes as well, to save money, and to be able to provide my family with a higher standard of living. And I wasn't fleeing any kind of danger or poverty. So aside from being a federally tax-paying citizen, what's the difference between me and someone immigrating illegally? It almost feels like they have more of a right to immigrate to America than I do to a red state. It's not my job really to say that illegal immigration is right or wrong, but I'm just saying, from a market, like hustle standpoint, it makes perfect sense. Especially if the border is wide open like it is now. Anyways, as the buses prepared to leave, a final group of stragglers arrived, speaking Bengali. They said they were from Bangladesh. I've never met anybody from Bangladesh, except a taxi driver in New York City 6 years ago who told me that the traffic in Bangladesh's capital city, Dhaka, was so bad it drove him into a suicidal state of depression, prompting a permanent exodus from his home country. I wanted to interview these migrants, but unfortunately, I don't speak a word of Bengali yet. Still, that didn't stop me. But bear in mind, as you watch this, that I have no idea what they're saying.
স্বাধীন দেশ গণতন্ত্রের জন্য উদার এই জন্য স্বাধীনের জন্য আমি আসছি কারণ আমি জীবন রক্ষার জন্য আসছি আমার বোন কি হয়েছে আমার ভাই চাকরি চলে গেছে প্রাইমারি স্কুলে চাকরি করে সে আসলে আমার ওয়াইফ একজন প্রাইমারি স্কুলের টিচার সরকারি টিচার মোহাম্মদ 7 অক্টোবর 1900 আমার জন্ম তারিখ 12/6/84 আমার নাম মোহাম্মদ আব্দুল আওয়াল শেখ পাবনা জেলায় আমাদের বাসা
Mohammed comes from Pabna district, a majority Muslim city of 3 million just west of the capital.
আমি এলডিপির সাথে জড়িত এলডিপিতে যোগদান করি 21 ফেব্রুয়ারি 2000 ওলি আহমেদের নেতৃত্বে এলডিপিতে যোগদান করি এলডিপি পার্টি আমার খুব ভালো লাগে কারণ এলডিপি পার্টির একটা নীতি আছে আর অন্যান্য পার্টির নীতি নাই আমাদের পার্টির নীতি নাই কারণ
This is all very, very interesting. Mohammed is a member of the Liberal Democratic Party in Bangladesh, a group led by Oli Ahmed. a revolutionary who was the first Bengali military official to revolt against the occupying Pakistani forces in 1971. This led to the Bangladesh Liberation War, in which Bangladesh came out on top and won their sovereignty. Oli Ahmed's party, the LDP, is allied with the even more powerful Bangladesh Nationalist Party, or the BNP, who in the past 2 decades have been extremely active in their resistance to the current Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's organization, which is called the Awami League. Since Sheikh Hasina came into power in 2009, the BNP and the LDP, which Mohammed belongs to, have accused the Awami League of rigging the elections and fixing the ballots to keep Sheikh Hasina in power, leading to mass protests and, in some cases, political violence. 2018.
to condemn the election.
Police fired rubber bullets and tear gas to disperse stone-throwing opposition crowds blocking major intersection roads in the capital, Dhaka. Many opposition activists and leaders were beaten up by the police and hundreds were detained. Opposition blames the government for the crackdown. Government said the programs by opposition parties are intended to destabilize the country and make people suffer.
After the 2018 election, tensions
Yo, there's
continued to
a
escalate
shield for you
between
back
Awami
here,
League and
Saki.
BNP, leading
Come
to
back
the
here,
arrest
Saki.
and imprisonment of opposition bloggers, teachers, activists, and journalists associated with the BNP.
It's more than 20,000 opposition leaders, activists, and supporters have been arrested since late October.
Last October, just months before the election polls opened, Sheikh Hasina took things a step further, declaring the opposition party to be a terrorist organization and calling for the immediate arrest of any and all public BNP or LDP members, including Mohammed.
আর অন্যান্য পার্টির নীতি নাই, আমলিক পার্টির নীতি নাই, কারণ একদিন আগেই নির্বাচন হয়ে যায়। ওরা যায় না, আমি এলডিপি পার্টি করি, আমি খালি জীবন রক্ষার জন্য এই দেশে চলে আসছি। যুক্তরাষ্ট্রে একটা স্বাধীন দেশ, এ দেশে আসলে আমার জীবন বাঁচবে, সেই জন্য আমার আব্বা, আমি মোটামুটি ঢাকা আমার বোনের বাসায় আশ্রয় নেই। আমার বোনের বাসা ঢাকা মিরপুর, সেখানে আশ্রয় নেই। ওরা চায় যে খালি আমরাই ক্ষমতায় থাকি, স্বাধীন বলে কোনো কিছু নেই ওদের কাছে। স্বাধীন 23 সালে আমি বাংলাদেশ ত্যাগ করি এই স্বাধীন দেশ যুক্তরাজ্য আমার খুব ভালো লাগে। 30 তারিখে মেক্সিকো ঢুকি আর আমেরিকা আজকে 29 তারিখে আমেরিকা ঢুকছি। আমার ওয়াইফের কথা তুমি জীবন বাঁচাও, আমার আব্বার কথা তুমি জীবন বাঁচাও। আমি যদি জীবন আজ যদি বাংলাদেশ থেকে না আসতাম তাহলে আমার
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you. Thanks so much. To my surprise, the buses still hadn't left yet. So thankfully, this gentleman was able to get a seat. I knew from watching the news in previous weeks that these buses were a major source of controversy when it came to the border issue. As indicated by their Texas license plates, these buses were funded by Governor Greg Abbott, who in the past 2.5 months has sent over 75,000 migrants from Texas and other states into 6 sanctuary cities, notably New York City and Chicago, whose immigration and housing resources are being dramatically exhausted by these buses. So this is kind of the famous buses that I've been hearing about in the news. As you can see, this big-ass charter bus just pulled up with Texas license plates. And right as it pulled up, they divided everybody into 2 lines. They're just going to load everybody up on these buses. I'm not sure where they're going to go, but yeah, it's bus time, baby. I decided to commit wholeheartedly to following this bus to wherever it would go, which I should note is not illegal, given that I'm a member of the force. The bus began on Puerto Blanco Drive and drove eastbound, back toward Arizona State Highway 85, a 2-lane road that crosses directly into Mexico when it becomes Mexican Highway 8. For reference, that's where we filmed the initial episode in this series, Arizona Border Crisis. We followed this bus for several hours, past multiple Border Patrol checkpoints, and ultimately onto an Indian reservation called the Tohono O'odham Nation, home to a highly sovereign Native American tribe that owns a 75-mile stretch of the U.S.-Mexico border, much of which has no border wall. For this reason, the Tohono O'odham Nation is a hotbed of human trafficking and drug smuggling. Everywhere you look, there's signs for misdemeanor. And the Department of Homeland Security has created a tactical patrol unit called the Shadow Wolves, comprised of military-aged Native American men from the tribe who use ancient tracking techniques to stalk drug smugglers through the day. As we followed the migrant bus through the roads, it abruptly made a left turn down Third Road. Okay, so we just followed this migrant bus all the way from the border in Lukeville, about 120 miles inland. and now we are at an airport. It's a regional, small airport. And parked horizontally in front of us. From out of nowhere, a helicopter landed directly next to our car. And then tribal police came in from the dirt road, blocking us in. And then told us that we were not allowed to film on the Tohono O'odham Nation land unless we got a written permit from the tribal council. And since the tribal council wouldn't be in office until 9 a.m. the next morning, that meant we had to stop filming. The tribal officers were quite courteous with us, but still insisted that we leave and escorted us away.
There's no concern about that. Obviously, we're concerned as well when we have Levi here, our following federal agents. Well, I appreciate you guys talking.
Thank you for doing this story with me. Yeah.
The tribal police escorted us off the property, and we drove in the direction of Tucson. They followed us the entire way until we left the race. This left me with many questions. Seeing the tribal police obviously collude with the federal government to directly keep me away from documenting whatever they were doing was quite strange, and my mind ran wild with conspiracy theories about what the heck they were hiding. I realized at that point that I was only getting a small part of the picture, just speaking with migrants who had immediately crossed the border into the U.S. It seemed like the group really calling the shots and pulling the strings were the coyotes, who appeared to be playing our broken immigration system like a fiddle, and probably making billions every month. And so my new journalistic mission began.
I began to ask different migrants and other people involved in that whole world if they knew any coyote
who would go on camera and give me a full tour of their operations.
At first I thought this is going to be impossible. What kind of coyote would want to go on camera? But I learned that most coyotes actually see themselves as Harriet Tubman-style freedom fighters, transporting the poor and needy up north for a better life. And so I got in touch with some coyotes
who said they wanted a chance to explain themselves to the world.
But there was one problem. They weren't anywhere near Arizona. They were in a city called Piedras Negras, which is directly across the Texas border from a town called Eagle Pass, Texas. A town of about 28,000 people. That in the past couple months has seen more illegal immigration than any other city on the entire border.
On Wednesday, Border Patrol agents apprehended more than 10,000 migrants.
Seems
Do not
that
push them.
have happened too often in the last month, making Maverick County the deadliest area for migrants in this 10-county border region.
And so I caught a flight to San Antonio, rented a car, and drove to Eagle Pass. At first, I asked the coyotes if they could walk over the border and meet me in the United States.
But they said that was way too sketchy. So I enlisted local rapper
Cheta Blanco to escort me across the border.
Give me a strap on my lap and a strap in the back. With 20 bags of the gas in the truck, got a shirt like the whole go back.
So we're gonna go into Mexico. We're gonna meet up with a coyote, professional coyote. Coyote's gonna be the person that crosses you. So the person that's, trained person to go through the desert, go through the river, get you to your pickup over here in the United States. So,
I'm moving before this time runs out.
Texas. Go to our Patreon, www.patreon.com/channel5. As many of you know, Channel 5 is, and will continue to be, completely independent and powered 100% by your contributions of $5.
10 seconds. Squad coming in.
Saludos para Piedras. Channel 5 live worldwide, Hollywood and Vine. Fuck the authority. Channel 5 News. Channel 5. We don't fuck with customers. No.
Round 5. Beginning ring countdown.
Rings close. Only 1 minute to go. 45 until ring close. It's near. Easy. "30 seconds. Listen up, I'm getting shot at. Cynthia, Evo shield here. Level 3.
Warning.
Evo shield here. Level 3.
Oh my god, you didn't start this?
Come on, we've got work to do.
This outfit could use some high-caliber accessories.
I'm only here to keep the promise.
Introducing your champion.
Let us see how impressive you truly are.
Good, I'm the jump master.
Hit the ground and pick up a weapon. No time for favorites.
I'm the jump master. Don't be afraid. Just close your eyes and lean. Eyes on the prize. Round 1. Beginning ring countdown. Attention. First blood.
Someone's achieved first blood. No going back now.
1 minute until the ring closes, and everything here is gone for good.
Seconds until the ring closes. We've got time, but not much. We've got 30 seconds to get to the next ring. If you go down, I'm not carrying you.
Trio 1 here. Spitfire here.
10 seconds until the ring closes. Grab what you need and let's go.
Heavy ammo here.
Warning. Ring closing.
Shops open. For VIPs only.
I've collected materials.
Mama's got you now.
American men are stuck in what's been dubbed a friendship recession, with 20% of single men now saying they don't have any close friends. And more than half of all men report feeling unsatisfied with the size of their friend groups.
That's just a little bit of what was discussed in a recent PBS report on this epidemic of male loneliness, which I think we've all heard at least something about before the pandemic, but exacerbated by the pandemic. It is an issue of social isolation that no group is necessarily immune from, but men in particular seem to be very hard hit by it. And there are a few new developments in technology in the digital age that might help a little bit, and we're going to discuss them, but let's go to just a little bit more about the issue.
Sometimes as men, we struggle to say, I need you,
Richard Reeves is the author of Boys and Men, Why the Modern Male is Struggling, Why It Matters, and What to Do About It. What is driving male loneliness? Why do men have such a hard time forming friendships and keeping them as they progress through life?
You can't neglect the friendship and expect it to just grow. You have to work at it. You have to find the time. And my observation is that many women are just better at doing that and building it into their lives.
What are you talking about?
So look, we don't want to paint too dark of a picture. There are some things that people are doing to try to deal with this. Support groups, friendship groups, hobby-related groups are being set up, and some men are finding a lot of success with that. But we've also seen online discussion about a couple of other ways that men are dealing with loneliness in this era. One is through the use of OnlyFans, which you probably think of as being a source for videos and photography and stuff like that, which it is, but it's also a place for some men to message with and, involve in a long-term sense in some cases, a kind of relationship with personalities online. And Business Insider has a great report on the topic that you should definitely look into. It is
what are you talking about?
For certain creators communicating for months or years at a time with some of these men, but some men are finding companionship through that. And I would also like to just let you know about something that I noticed in the news in the last day. It is that ChatGPT, run by OpenAI, now has a place for people to upload their own customized chatbots. And what do you know? A lot of them are AI girlfriends. There's a lot of attempts by OpenAI to shut those down, to block them, but they keep popping up. And I would speculate that they keep popping up because there is a demand for them. That it might be easier for some men to develop a sort of relationship, a lower stakes, less risky relationship with one of these AI bots than getting out there into a world that might seem very different. So we thrown out a lot of stuff against the wall. What do you all make of this?
It's very sad. We don't raise men in this country. We raise boys, guys, homies, players, and dudes. And empathy is viewed as a weakness. And we are in a time when a lot of guys are finding dignity in right-wing chat rooms. When a lot of guys are finding the illusion of connection in fake women, or women they pay to find them interesting, as opposed to, the old-fashioned way of going to strip clubs and paying them to find you interesting. So, I think the very fact that we're talking about it as a culture is the healthiest thing we can do, because it is the sort of thing that no leader, no organization can fix. It comes down to the individual who gets tired of living like this and wants to get out of his house, take a damn dance class, take an improv class, be out in the world, challenge yourself, be scared for 5 minutes, meet new people, grow a little bit, and see what kind of world is waiting for you. I don't think ridiculing these guys is the way we're ever going to get any healing, fun though that might be. But I also get more down than the friendship deficit when I read how many young men aren't having sex. And that's what scares me. Because when men stop trying to impress women, men stop trying to be better men to impress women. I mean, we will never know how many awful men have become decent, righteous, empathetic, evolved people because of the love of a good woman or a good guy. And I fear that we've confused happiness with pleasure, dopamine with serotonin. The brief little squirt of pleasure that you get in your brain from porn, a lot of people think that's real happiness, but it's a very brief, transient thing. And this is going to be a phase of human evolution where we're going to have to learn that trying to connect with each other this way, it might work a little, but it's not going to replace being around actual people. And it's going to make guys meaner.
Yeah, I definitely hear you. There's a temptation to laugh at people who are feeling atomized, who are feeling alone. And I think that phenomenon certainly isn't new. I mean, Robert Putnam's Bowling Alone is like one of the best books of the past couple of decades.
We used to be a nation of joiners.
Yeah, and we don't have that. Everyone's isolated, everyone's atomized. I think that got worse for the past decade and a half, especially when you add social media, which gives you the feeling of connection.
Yes.
And this isn't just tied to porn or OnlyFans or anything like that. Like that, I think it's a different type of need they think is being fulfilled. But I found myself often in quarantine thinking I had a healthy social relationship because like friends and I would play video games every night and hang out on Discord and voice chats, and it's like it's kind of the same thing. But over time, after a few months, it's like, oh my God, I haven't talked to anybody at all in months. And I think that is deeply troubling and concerning when you have potentially millions of young men who are coming to a certain age in their life, or they're reaching adulthood, their views are just being shaped, and you have, unfortunately, a lot of people on the left ridiculing them, and a lot of people on the right just waiting to exploit them.
Yeah.
And they just pull them over. Oh yeah, all your problems, it's women. All your problems, it's immigrants. It's people of color. It's this, it's that.
Yeah.
It's not, look at this system that you're living within that atomizes you deliberately.
There's an author on my show who wrote a book about flat Earth believers, and the thing about it is, the white supremacist groups zero in on conspiracy theories like this that might attract lonely people looking for community somewhere, because they know that's where the pickings are to get new people to join the messing this. That's what really scares me, the illusion of dignity, because you have a certain group of friends. I just want a lot of these young men to be in a situation where they can have hugs, because physical touch is what angry, mean men need.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know when we stop trying to impress girls and trying to get out of the house and be more well-rounded and more charming and more evolved. But now, in the era of it's quicker and cheaper than a date to just watch a 5-minute porn film, this is what's scary.
There's less anxiety and stress at the prospect of it as well. It has always been difficult to try to find a person, both for a friendship and for a romantic relationship. Those are difficult, and now there are easily available, less scary alternatives to it. Yeah. And, everything is going to, flow in the direction of least resistance, and that's kind of what it is. And the issue, there's so much structurally, I think, that's causing this. But then on top of it, it deserves more conversation. There are a lot of theoretically sources for male improvement. People who are trying to fix, trying to deal with this, trying to diagnose it. You talk about authors you have in the show. The most high-profile ones are men, generally in right-wing media, men in seduction and stuff, who have no interest whatsoever in any of these men ever improving. Because if they improved, they wouldn't have to watch your content all day long. They draw you in to break you, because a broken man will watch their content and buy their classes and all of that, and that cannot be said enough. They are being preyed on by really weak men who want their viewers to be even weaker, and it needs to end.
But that's beauty magazines. Men are finally catching up with beauty magazine culture, because Cosmo has to make you feel inadequate and fat and uncoordinated, because if you start feeling good about yourself, you're not going to read Cosmo.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with guys. We're witnessing it now.
I mean, at the very least, Cosmo never said we should be gunning people down at the border. Unfortunately, that's where this often turns on the right-wing version.
Absolutely, but porn is to actual sex what pro wrestling is to actual sports. And if you're going to be too scared to go out there and risk failure, if you're going to be that much of a coward in the face of life, you're going to stay home and play it safe with pixels on a screen, well, I want you to have a happy life. I don't want you to be a right-wing incel resenting people and blaming women for not acting like women in porn, how women are supposed to act. Deal with these guys all the time, and they are being warped, and they still need love, they still need to grow. And yeah, it's tempting to make fun of them because some of them are so damn mean. But I still live in hope that these guys can get off of their screens, come out of their parents' basements, live in their community, and discover a little bit of empathy, and maybe learn how to spell "your" correctly. Just maybe.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this end. Still, hit the join button below.
Let's go. We got another updater. Refresh this. Yo, what's up with Google? You gonna update? Start spreading the news. Yeah. I'm leaving today. Let's go, Dave.
Look at some tiny PCs. That's smaller than that. Other than that. Alright. Windows. Hey, I'm Dave. Welcome to my shop.
Today in Dave Tomorrow, we're going to look at 5 different mini PCs, ranging from tiny to really small. We'll start with the most compact and proceed on to the most powerful, up to and including a 14-core i9 with a 3080 Ti, but they all share one thing in common: they're small. The CPUs and GPUs involved will vary widely, and spoiler alert, the best PCs for gaming aren't always the smallest form factor, as you might guess. At the higher end, we'll find GPUs that can play modern games at generous frame rates, but when it comes to the smallest of the small, well, I hope you like Minecraft. And that's why I'll be giving you the benchmark numbers for each, and we'll cover what the various form factors are actually capable of. The first PC we'll look at has been around for a while now, the Zima board. This model features the Intel Celeron N3450, a quad-core CPU with a base clock of 1.1 GHz and a turbo of 2.2, which makes it more than capable of running a robust Linux installation. It can also run Windows. It would be great for Pi-hole, pfSense, DNS, and perfect for whatever Docker containers you can dream up. Why mess with Raspberry Pis when you can have full x64 support in a form factor that's only marginally larger? The Zima comes in 3 configs, known as the 232, the 432, and the 832, with the first digit indicating the amount of RAM in gigabytes, 2, 4, or 8. I've got the top spec Zima board 832 here, which also features 4 CPU cores on its passively cooled Intel Celeron Apollo Lake chip, the N3450. With a turbo of 2.2 GHz, it's not a computational powerhouse, but it's more than adequate for running Linux and various tools and packages that can be found there. It can also run Windows, but mine came with Casa OS, the Debian-based distribution, so that's what I kept on it. The Zima has a few unique features, not the least of which is an external PCIe 2x4 slot on the side. The slot affords you the opportunity to run a full PCIe card externally, like this OCZ SSD that I've plugged into it for testing. In theory, you could add a more powerful GPU, a higher speed network adapter, or pretty much anything else you can dream up. The Zima also has great connectivity, featuring dual SATA ports on the end that allow you to connect drives directly to it. They include a cable that allows you to tap power off that end as well, so nothing external is required. It also has dual 1 gigabit Ethernet ports, dual USB 3 ports, and somewhat oddly, a mini DisplayPort connector that can handle up to 4K 60. It supports the transcoding of up to 1080p formats and can decode H.264 and H.265 in hardware. I put the Zima through its paces by running the console version of Geekbench 6. The same test will apply to each of the systems today to get a fair comparison between them. And the Zima scored a single-core score of 271 and a quad-core result of 840. On the GPU compute side, it scored 843, and so those numbers will serve as our baseline as we move up the progression. And speaking of which, the next PC we'll check out is the smallest of the bunch, the Pantera Pico PC from XDO. Little side note, I couldn't tell which way their logo went, and I didn't have any other documentation, so when I first hooked it up to a tiny display, I thought it was OCX. So I wound up flipping the display upside down internally in Windows settings until I figured out it's XDO. This adorable little PC features Intel's J4125 quad-core chip at 2.7 GHz. It sports 8 GB of LPDDR4 memory and an M2 SSD, which in my case is a 256 GB unit. The J4125 and the XDO Pico is similar to the older Celeron and the Zima, but sports a higher base clock of 2 versus 1.1 GHz and a higher boost clock of 2.7 compared to the old 2.2. The internal GPU goes from the Intel HD 500 in the Zima to the HD 600 in the Pico, but the graphics performance differences should be negligible. The Pico does pick up H.265 10-bit and BP9 encoding in hardware. PDP increases to 10 watts from the Zima 6, but in both cases, the Pico has dual-band Wi-Fi, meaning it supports both the 2.4 and 5 GHz bands, but no Wi-Fi 6 yet. And the one curious omission is the lack of an RJ45 network port. XDO provided a USB dongle that features 3 more USB ports as well as a network jack, and though it's only a gigabit connection, it works well. It also offloads the keyboard and mouse cables onto the dongle as well, so it actually tidies up the wiring rather than cluttering it further. The Pico has a standard audio jack and has been upgraded to a copper heatsink with an internal fan. While the Zima's cooling was entirely passive, the Pico uses a copper heatsink. This fan is generally pretty quiet until there's any significant load placed on the CPU or GPU, at which point it spins up to a fairly low level, but the fan is small enough that the RPMs are high enough that the pitch can be a bit annoying. Here's an example.
I love this part!
Perhaps the most interesting aspect of the Pico PC is the accessories that are available for it, making it into a useful travel PC for anything other than serious gaming. There's a small projector that would be ideal for camping or situations where a TV isn't available, as well as a folding Bluetooth keyboard and a rather adorable little mouse. The Pico is available in a wide range of colors, and it's an attractive design. The LED bar on the top is blue regardless of the PC's body color. The Pico sports 4 USB ports, not including the little hub that came with it, 3 of which are USB 3 and the other is USB 2. In terms of performance, the Pico is in about the same class as the Zima, but thanks to the newer generation CPU with a higher boost clock, and perhaps due to the cooling system, we see a small jump in the numbers. The Pico manages the best single-core score of 352 and a multi-core score of 997. Okay. The CPU compute score was a touch lower than the Zima, however, coming in at 794. Now keep in mind the Zima is running the console version of Geekbench under Linux, whereas the Pico is running the graphical version under Windows. Couldn't make a difference, but on an 8GB system, it might be memory constrained, and so it might have. Since we're under Windows, we can throw Cinebench R23 into the mix, and the Pico scored 444. I still think you should look at this as being somewhat amazing that a form factor like this can even run something like Cinebench, even if the score is low. How low is it? Well, that 444, for comparison at the other end of the scale, you can look at my new Threadripper 7995WX, which scores over 100,000. So it's quite a delta. You won't get rich mining Bitcoin on a Pico, that much is certain. It's got media encoding and decoding built in, but there's one problem. I couldn't get it to reliably play back 4K 60 content on YouTube, as it would drop about 8 of the frames each second. That was on a hardwired Ethernet connection, not Wi-Fi, so it seems the limitation is actually the ability to decode and push net bits to the screen. In summary then, if you have a scenario that doesn't require a lot of CPU and that generally operates headlessly, either the Zima or the Pico should suffice. The Zima is more expandable and the Pico has a smaller, more durable form factor, so it really depends on your scenario as to which one would be the better choice for you. But what if you need more? What if you want something that's actually usable as a desktop, can play media and even do some gaming? Well, I've got good news, because with just a tiny bump up in size, we can pick up a lot of time. Let's have a look at the Zulu XR1, which brings the Ryzen 8 CPU to the table with 8 cores and 16 threads. It features up to 64 gigabytes of LPDDR4 RAM, built-in Wi-Fi 6E, 7 USB ports, 3 of which are USB 2. It's got an M2 slot and replaceable RAM, so it's upgradable as well, although it's unfair to work on because internally it has edge connectors that go to ribbon connectors, and the foil panels that have to be inserted into these pretty fragile countries, so taking it apart is an invention. It also features a USB-C port that does support video. The Zulu supports a 7nm Ryzen 5800U CPU, which doubles our core count to 8 and, more importantly, ups the turbo frequency to a substantial 4.4 GHz. This is essentially one of AMD's laptop chips, an integrated graphics, so it's still just integrated graphics, but there's a significant step up from the Zima and the Pico. Data core is about quadruple to 512, and the clock speed is about double as well. There are dual HDMI ports as well as that USB-C, so 3 monitors can be connected at 4K 60. Better yet, the Zulu had no trouble with 4K 60 playback on YouTube, and once the stream was established, no further frames were ever dropped. For me, the Zulu hits the point at which it becomes an actual usable desktop PC, and it's still such a tiny form factor that I think it's perfect for throwing into your travel bag for connection to a hotel TV, for example. In fact, there's only one thing that disappointed me on the Zulu, and that's the fact that you can't power it by USB-C power delivery. See, my Dell monitor has the USB-C KVM and power supply built in, so with things like the Latte Panda Sigma, you can connect everything to the monitor with a single USB-C cable. It not only powers the computer, but it connects the USB channel to the keyboard and mouse that are in turn connected to the monitor. But while the Zulu doesn't support power over USB-C, if you hook up its supplied power adapter, you can then plug the USB-C cable into the monitor. The USB keyboard and mouse and video all work as expected, and that even leaves 2 more HDMI ports available, so it appears, as I said, the Zulu can handle 3 monitors at once this way. The Zulu also features a small OLED display, the most prominent part being a clock that auto-sets based on network time and your local time zone set. In other words, it was just right, and I never had to set it. I thought this display was kind of a useless feature at first, but since they've added both fan speed and system temperature to the display, it's actually quite handy, and I find myself checking it off, and particularly when the system is under load. While not entirely silent, I don't recall ever really noticing the fan much, and it seems to run at a lower speed than the Pico, so it's less distracting when it does spool up. In terms of raw performance, the Zulu sails past the Pico with a single-core score of 1894 and a multi-core score of 6493. The GPU compute score comes in at 16,092, which should serve as an indication that the Zulu XR1 is capable of playing most mid-range titles, from Counter-Strike on up, but for current titles like Starfield and Cyberpunk, you're going to be at 1080 or 1440p and low to medium settings to get a respectable frame rate, but we'll play them. Our next two machines really up the ante for power, and the first step comes up with just another small incremental increase in size. The Herc Orion Mini PC. Moving up to the Orion brings us a Ryzen 9 CPU, the 7940HS. Sporting 8 cores and 16 threads, it features a 4 GHz base clock with a boost clock of 5.2 GHz. The unit can be equipped with up to 64 GB of LPDDR5 sodium RAM. It uses a proper vapor chamber cooler with a fan and is running a 1 TB NVMe SSD. Since there are two M.2 slots in there, you have one completely open in the base config. Inside the beautiful aluminum case, the Orion supports Wi-Fi 6 and has a 2.5 gigabit LAN port, which I was able to verify with iPerf up to a consistent 2.37 gigabits in the real-world usage. There are dual USB 3 ports, dual USB 2 ports, and better yet, dual USB 4 ports.
Match found.
The unit ships with a 140-watt power supply, and the CPU has a TDP of 65. But with some tinkering, it can likely go, and better yet, dual LAN port, which I was able to verify with iPerf up to a consistent 2.37 gigabits in the real-world usage. There are dual USB 3 ports, dual USB 2 ports, and better yet, dual USB 4 ports. The unit ships with a 140-watt power supply, and the CPU has a TDP of 65, but with some tinkering, it can likely go as high as 90. For graphics, the Orion sports the Radeon 780M RDNA 3 graphics, and the GPU is running at a sprightly 2.8 GHz. It can also boost to 3, but I couldn't verify. Total graphics power comes in at 54 watts, and it uses a 4nm process in the manufacture. In terms of benchmarks, the Orion turns in a single-core score of 2672 and a multi-core score of 13,332 in Geekbench 6. It's actually the highest multi-core score we'll see today. On the GPU compute side, it achieves a score of 32,567, about double what we saw in the Zulu. Those numbers would indicate that the Orion should be an actual contender for 3D gameplay, and indeed, it can play Starfield at 720p low settings at a solid 60 FPS. Spider-Man, which is a slightly less demanding title, manages 70 to 80 FPS at 1080p, while Forza approaches 120 frames per second at similar settings. Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p low settings also manages to keep up with a 60Hz VSync, making for a useful and enjoyable experience and a very small package. But what if you need more? What if you need a level of gaming performance that you're simply not able to get, at least not yet, in an integrated package? At that point, you're going to need a discrete GPU, but if you see the size of a Founders Edition card lately, they're huge and would completely negate the whole point of these compact packages. So what to do? Well, enter the tank from Ace Magic. While it's the largest unit we'll look at today, it's still compact for what it brings to the table, including an i9-12900H CPU and a 3080 Ti GPU. The 12900 features 14 cores distributed across 6 performance cores with multi-threading and 8 economy cores without. The base clock is 3.8 GHz with a boost clock of 5 GHz. With a maximum power of 115 watts, it features 24 megabytes of on-die CPU cache as well. Because the 12900 features Intel's Xe integrated graphics, you actually have 2 GPUs. But it's the NVIDIA 3080 that is the star of the show. Now, it's actually the laptop variant of the GPU, which is cut down in specs to a certain degree, but still much more powerful than the integrated graphics we've seen on all the other units so far. In the synthetic benchmarks, the tank turns in a single-core score of 2,523 and a...
Cristianesimo non c'è una condanna dell'istinto sessuale, no?
It's been a long time since we've looked at a case from InWin. One of the things I love about and all the extra is a smaller motherboard, like a standard ATX. So this is where your cabling is going to sit. 925 and 928. Those aluminum barrels that are like some lathe and stuff. All right. There is a latch that slides in, right? Yes. So there we go. Look at the amount of framework on the glass. There's even rubber on the bottom of the glass. Oh, I'm so glad that they sent this, because this was something they debuted at CES. It's not even something that like I knew was coming. Anyway,
One enemy remaining.
I guess it's partial aluminum,
Spike
partial
down
steel,
A.
because this is clearly magnetic and it's clearly sticking. So that's the dust filter on the top. The drive cages are holy crap. Who needs such industrial drive cages?
That sounds good.
They're heavy. They're like actually see this. They came out of right here. They like slipped out. That's what happened. I don't hold that against Inwin. That is because of the loving caring hand of our UPS. So as you can see, there's no center mid block off plate or anything for the power supply to compartmentalize it. It is power supply exposed, so this is where your cabling is gonna severely matter. And this is where like custom cables and stuff would certainly come in nice. All right, so because it's such an open interior, you have a lot of room in here. So you can do 12 by 13 inch up to EATX motherboards. Obviously, 15 EATX.
I'm hearing B.
Heinz PCI Express expansion slot. GPU length up to 430 millimeters. Now that's going to be without a rad in the front. If you add thick rads with pretty cool fans in the front with a rad, you'll lose some of that length, obviously. CPU heat sinks up to 160 millimeters high. And then, of course, you've got all your expansion pages and stuff that we've already talked about in there. And you can basically fit any motherboard all the way up to wherever this grommet is. As long as you can still make the cables into the grommet, you're good. But you can see you have two sets of grommets. So if you have an EATX, it'll just sit on top of those and then use those grommets. If you have a smaller motherboard, like a standard ATX, and you use these, and then these are just chilling here for, I guess. So our drive cages actually slot into this section right here. They'll mount right here for like the 3.5 inch and 2.5 inch drives. They do give us 3 of their Jupiter AJ140 RGB case fans for the front. Probably not the highest quality fan, but the blades feel really flimsy. I think you're probably going to end up changing these fans out to something else, mostly because of the fact that you can fit 3 more at the bottom, well, 2 more at the bottom technically. If you're not using too long of a power supply, you could fit probably a 240 down here if you were using a really short power supply. Otherwise, you could mount a 120 down here or a 140 pulling air into the bottom. With a lot of room on the bottom.
Spike down
but you have room for 360 on the top, and they give you another one right here as an exhaust. But unless you're going to go buy these fans so they all match, if you're like me, you're looking at in the price range and this level of componentry, you're probably going to care about your fans all being matching. So I would probably personally change out these fans for something that is more aesthetically pleasing to this particular build. Like this
inside left B, man.
Fan looks all right, but to me it doesn't really go with the aesthetics of the case, especially since the ARGB is like RGB gradient on the hub, which doesn't look very pretty in terms of like the sticker. With that said, let's go ahead and take the back off, which comes off exactly like the front or the front glass. And I want to see what the cable management options and stuff in the back look like, because face it, that's really the business end of the computer, because that's where you're going to be spending a lot of your time when it comes to assembly. Pretty standard. You can see we even have some drive cage mounts right here, so you can take off this thumb screw. These slide out. We have provisions here to mount 2.5 inch and 3.5 inch drives, even all 3 of the holes for the 3.5 inch drive, which is kind of nice. You can also use this to mount like controller boxes and stuff if you need to, or if you're not going to be mounting, if you're running like all NVMe drives, you can just take these out entirely, put them aside, and you have cleaner look back here, even though you can't see in there. The cabling's a little bit everywhere, but that's because we've got our top buttons are on the top side, so that's what this is right here. We've got our power button, and then we've got 2 USB 3.0, combo jack and USB-C. And then these are our wires for the front fans, but then as you can see, we also have what looks like fan splitters here, as well as RGB headers and such. So it's nice that they give us this distribution, power distribution here for both RGB and fan power.
She's in force. She's in.
Even though we already have 4 fans,
careful, Holmes. He might be there.
So that's kind of nice. That means the one that's included with
enemy remaining.
And because it has an ARGB distribution built into it too, means you can plug that into your motherboard, and then you can have all your fans have a nice, simply centralized location to plug in all this ARGB wires. Every single one of these is also a pigtail. So keep your LED counts in mind. You can only split off ARGB signals so many times for so many ARC wire put into it. You already have 4, as well as RGB headers and such. So it's nice that they give us this distribution, power distribution here for both RGB and fan power. And even though we already have 4 fans occupied in there. We have room for 4 more. So that's kind of, that means the one that's included with this, and because it has an
careful for
ARGB
Phoenix. Oh, no.
distribution built into it too, means you can plug that into your motherboard, and then you can have all your fans have a nice, simply centralized location to plug in all of its ARGB wires. Every single one of these is also a pigtail. So keep your LED counts in mind. You can only split off ARGB signals so many times for so many so many LEDs. And yes, if your fan has 10 LEDs in it, that's 10 LEDs used up of the total, I think 160, I think it is. Maybe it's 80. I think it's 80 actually. So you need to keep that in mind. If you occupy all these and then split them off a million times, you're probably going to start having to kill my ally.
She's reviving. She's reviving.
But yeah, each of the fans here.
Yeah, but she walled off.
Oh, actually, you know what this is? I just realized. I'm stupid.
Oh.
I'm dumb because each fan has.
I can't see her. Do anything
underneath its way in here. So if you change the fans out, those are all going to come out anyway. This wire right here is the motherboard signal. So this goes to the motherboard so that it can tell all the fans what to do. This right here. Okay, so this is our PWM signal for the fan controller. This is our ARGB. And then this right here is our SATA power, so that we can run tons and tons of fans and not worry about how much power the header has, because the header is not giving any power. It's also going to do SATA and then PWM. Alright, pretty straightforward. And then our front panel connectors are all routed right here. Not a whole lot to talk about. Not a whole lot of depth, but I think there's plenty of room right here to be able to...
I don't like that.
Today I'm building a dual gaming setup using Corsair's Platform 6 desks. They're going to go inside my very empty dining room as a his and her setup for me and my girlfriend. That's right, no desk for you. Shout out to Corsair for sponsoring this video and providing most of the gear we're using today. You can find links to everything in the video description. Having to build this much hardware for a single person seems a little intimidating, but I mean, they're just desks.
Watch, okay, go watch me.
Before we continue, this video is brought to you in part by CDKeyOffer.com. So I have 3 desktop PCs that I regularly bounce between, and all of them are running activated copies of Windows from keys that I got on CDKeyOffer.com. I've used many key sites in the past, but CDKeyOffer is the only one I've never had an issue with. I've never had a bad key, I've never had to call customer service, I've never had to email customer support, and I've never had to activate Windows over a phone, which is super fun. Right now you can get a Windows 10 Pro OEM key for around $22, but wait! Add it to your cart, use the 25% discount code BW20 at checkout, and the price drops to just $16.93. Buy GrabStar's hammer, what a savings. To use your new key, just go to your purchased orders from the drop-down menu to view and copy the key once you get there, and then paste that key into the Windows activation page. Voila! You've got an activated OS that's also eligible for a free upgrade to Windows 11. Alternatively, you can skip the upgrade and buy Windows 11 Pro directly using the same code BW20 and add OS for around $23. Activate the key using the aforementioned steps and get the full Windows experience easily and affordable. Thanks again to CDKeyOffer.com. Now back to the main video. Alright, we're going to start off nice and easy and build one of the desks first. Something to note is that when you order the Platform 6, it arrives to your doorstep in 3 separate boxes. You can see right here, box 1, box 2, and that little one, box 3. And based on my limited knowledge of numbers, I'm going to open up box 1 first. Hey, can you also just lower her nice and easy? Oh, God! Our first peek into the box. Oh, our first peek under the phone. More.
Those guys are running out after
the
it.
tabletop and accessories. And this is manual. Oh my goodness, it's thick. All right, here's some of the pieces from box number 1. I did leave the tabletop inside the box so we don't scratch the surface when installing the legs, which I'm not sure where the legs are. They might be in box number 2, but not in box number 3 because that's just power strip. So we'll open that up in a sec. Although I did want to mention that the Platform 6 does give the option for the vertical electronic desk that goes up and down. However, I just opted for the basic static desk because I'm late. All right, the legs better be in here. Is it bad that I'm already sweating?
Watch me. It might be rotating.
Legs. Give me the legs. Yeah. There's a leg. Looks like a leg. That's a leg.
88 page catwalk.
Tools and accessories. We're gonna need these.
Last player standing.
Very nicely packaged. Very nicely labeled as well. Come on, leg. I love leg. Oh my God, it's so heavy. Good Lord, that's a heavy leg. The Platform 6 did not skip leg day. Hold on. Hold the phone. These look like electronic legs. It's got a power cable. What the frick? And then this thing? Dude, they gave me the fancy desk that goes up and damn, they really want me to stand. Of course, it's like, you need to get off your ass, guy. All right, finishing up the second leg here. And boom. Hey. These feel very sturdy, actually. The bolts are really nice and chunky. There's a cable management tray. Look at how big this cable management tray is. This is my hand for scale, an average man's hand. It goes all the way down there. This is great because we have a gaming PC and 2 monitors at each setup, so there's going to be a lot of wires flying around. This is going to help us tidy things up. Alright, just install these 2 frames, and that will allow us to mount this tray like so. There are holes on this side? Tell me there are holes on this side. Yes, there are holes. Oh, I love it when there's holes. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, these are like thumb screws, so you can easily undo it and let the tray down if you want to get in there. Next up, we got to install the controller for our motorized legs. And this is cool. You can
I'll take
the right or the left side of the desk, whatever your preference. We're going to mount it to the right side. And then we also got to mount down our power supply for those legs, which you can see I've already seated in between the rails of the desk. I just got to screw it down. On a quick side note, I was a bit bummed out to see all the hex screws for this thing because I'm a bit of a businessman myself. But of course, that includes this handy dandy ratchet. It's so handy. And for all the Phillips head screws, I have my handy dandy LTT screwdriver. LTTstore.com. Wait, one second. Where's the exciting part now? The big lid. Bang, bang, bang. Get it ready and turn the desk over. Be careful. It's heavy. With the motorized legs installed, that desk feels twice as heavy now, so I'm gonna need some help flipping it. Hey, do you guys wanna,
Can't use this yet.
Yep. This is fine.
Okay,
totally fine.
One enemy.
I don't have it. I already healed.
Alright, here it is.
Black
laminate. You can also opt for a dark walnut stain if you like that sort of thing. I just went
Killjoy!
Platinum crack, baby. Very nice surface, feels high quality, and surprisingly resilient fingerprints. My palms are very sweaty mom spaghetti right now. Hardly picking up anything. You know, this is actually pretty cool. I've always wanted a desk with my own personal bar. I'm really liking the ease of assembly here, and the instructions are just super clear. Like, they'll say step 5, and there's a bag that actually says step 5 in it with all the pieces that you need for that particular step. Ooh, we got these little dowel pins. It's like IKEA. Is there a meatball in here? Now we gotta work on the top rail assembly. This is gonna allow us to connect certain things like the pegboard, some Elgato accessories, and even our monitor arm mounts. So we gotta start off with these corner supports. I have to align this bar with these T-nuts first and not damage the table in the process. Alright, let's see if I can do this one-handed. Come on, baby. Come on, you're almost there. A little lower. Oh yeah, that's good. Now I can line up the other side with this guy. And now I can screw them down. Now let's take a quick second to talk about my nuts. We talked about T-nuts. Of course, these handy little things go a long way in extending the functionality of the Platform 6 desk. The
One
silver ones
enemy
have a
remaining.
thread, which is great for
Spike down,
products,
she's
and then the black ones have a standard M6 thread. These basically just go anywhere you see a rail. Anywhere there's a rail.
Let's go home.
I've already got a black one in right now. These guys really limit on what you can mount to these guys. They also slide around, so pretty adjustable, but there's a set screw if you want to lock it down. I also got some chunkier Elgato adapters for other things that we'll be adding in just a bit. For example, I believe this goes right.
Ooh, I got the dragon.
Your monitor arm. You can mount an Elgato face cam very easily right there in the center. Strip plug.
Sage.
Time for the power.
Ooh.
Alright, we got a couple power
Wanna
accessories here.
trade?
We have a 6
No,
dragon.
I got the dragon. I got the dragon.
USB Type A 2.1 amp ports as well. So I think this
Just
is
pressing Y to look at my
we
dragon
can actually
gun.
stuff this inside of the cable management tray. And then we also have this little guy right here, which is a 3-outlet.
It's not the best dragon, but it's a good
one
dragon.
Type A and Type C port. This can clamp to the desk, or you can remove the
Carlos?
clamp and actually mount this in the rail system. It will look something like that. So you can slide that around however you like as well. I'm just going to mount it to the desk because I feel like lower would be better since I don't want the monitors to get in the way. Oh, I should mention that the top part of the clamp is padded so that you don't do any damage to the surface of the desk. Lampy wampy! And we got this cable cubby at the back in the middle of the desk, which I believe has something in it that we need. Oh, USB cable. Oh, this is for pass-through, pass-through power. So one end is actually going to connect to the USB port on the power strip, and the other end is connect to the bottom. There's a USB-C port. The USB-C port right here at the bottom.
great.
And on the inside of the
Survival
cover, you
there,
have a Type A and a Type C port right there for pass-through power. They really thought of everything. The desk is all plugged in and powered up. We should theoretically be able to raise and lower it with the controller.
Enemy spotted.
Oh, good morning. Good morning. Actually, so high we're not a frame. So just for reference, I'm 5 foot 7 inches tall.
Last
Down.
player
And as you
standing.
can see, this is way too tall for me at its highest position. So I'm going to lower it down to something more comfortable. Now you can see perfect height, and there's memory profiles 1
Spike
and 2.
planted.
Yay! Motorized desk
You
is
will
working.
not
Monitor
kill my
arms.
ally.
Let's go. Yeah, alright, so we just put this over the railing system, clamp her down, and obviously you can slide this anywhere along the rail system to your heart's content. Cable management 50. locking ring. Alright, so there's a locking collar here, and if you loosen it, it allows you to move this piece up and down. That'll let you adjust the height of the monitors, essentially. Lock her down, and then we got our dual monitor adapter here. I believe this goes on here. Oh, yeah. Easy. Secure from the bottom. Woo! Yee! Oh! Okay, I think we actually get to step away from the desk for a minute and install the monitors. We got not one, not two, not three, but 4 Xenon monitors. Courtesy of Corsair. This is the 27QHD 240 OLED 27-inch gaming monitor. G-Sync, 240 Hz refresh rate, LG OLED panel. Come on! These things are super sexy, and I know you're thinking, Kyle, why not 4K? Well, that's because Corsair hasn't exactly made the 4K version of this yet. But as soon as they do, I will promptly throw this heap of garbage out the window. Come to daddy, come to papa. Ooh, baby, that is thin. That's like a big tablet. Oh, it's riveting. Oh my goodness. Oh. And here we go. Oh. Monitors installed. Looking pretty good there, see? Around the back.
Well, don't go
mid. Well, you can kind of see what's going on here. So we've got the arms, which actually have grooves in them, so you can run the cables as well. Good cable management system. One thing about this desk that I forgot to mention earlier, though, is that it does come included with these cable management trays that you can mount to the back of the railing system. You can just kind of slide them around, walk them down if you so choose. Just a nice protect your cables if you don't want to use the tray down below. Now, one thing I knew we were going to run into is cable length issues. The included DisplayPort cable that comes along with the Xenon monitors is too short. That is, of course, if you're using the cable management system in the monitor arm. It's a 5-foot cable, which simply isn't long enough if we're trying to route cable management. Drop down here in the middle. You probably route it somewhere in the tray, and then it terminates right about here. We still need to go all the way over here and then around into the PC, which means we're about 5 feet short, I would say, if I'm eyeballing correctly. So basically, I need a bunch of 10-foot DisplayPort cables, which I do not have. I don't even have any at the office. They're all like 6 foot or under. I just checked Best Buy's website. They do have them in stock, but they're $30 a pop for like the Insignia brand, which is absolutely insane. I found them on Amazon for $10 a pop, so I just bought those, and they're going to be here around tomorrow, if not 2 days from now, which sucks. We're going to have to circle back to that, but let's move on. Now, Corsair did hook me up with the optional Elgato multi-frame system for both of the setups today, which is all this black stuff. It's the pegboards, the shelves on the sides, and you can mount extra stuff to it, make it look pretty and decorated and things like that. And I believe it is in this box right here, desk extensions and pegboards kit. So not only do we get the pegboards and the shelves, but we also get the desk extension, which is basically just a platform that is going to extend the desk, either on the right or left side. You can put the PC right on top of it, so we don't have to put it on the floor like he. Here we go again. Let's check it out. Alright, pegboards, some extra framing, and the extension probably in there somewhere. I think this is the extension right here, actually. Oh, it's heavy. Yep, that's definitely it. Is the PC gonna fit on there? So. Which, by the way, both of our PCs today are gonna be inside of the Corsair 4000X, which is a fairly slim mid-tower, so we should be good on that. More on the PCs later, though. Houston, we have a problem. I just knew that things were going way too smoothly. I was under the assumption that this box, because it says desk extensions and pegboards kit, was the Elgato multi-frame system, because the multi-frame system, that's the key, one of the key elements is these giant pegboards, and it does come include with pegboards. However, one thing I failed to realize is that these are the pegboards that go on the side of the desk, not the ones that go out there. How? Completely different kits. I just checked my inventory. How? Pegboards kit was the Elgato multi-frame system, because the multi-frame system, that's the key, one of the key elements is these giant pegboards, and it does come included with pegboards. However, one thing I failed to realize is that these are the pegboards that go on the side of the desk, not the ones that go up there with the multi-frame system. So this is a completely different kit. I just checked my inventory of boxes, and there is no Elgato multi-frame box to be found. We don't have them. It's an optional accessory, so we can carry on in the meantime and build the other desk and set up the PCs and stuff. But the multi-frame system does add a lot of functionality to the desk. It makes it look completely different as well, so I really do want to add those on. I've already emailed my rep at Corsair to find out what's going on, if those boxes ever shipped, if they arrived, if someone stole them off my porch, I don't know. But in the meantime, at the very least, we can move ahead and install one of these desk extensions. A single kit includes 2 of them, one for the left side and one for the right side of the desk. However, we're only going to be using one of these per setup, because we only need them for the PC. We don't need extra desk space. This thing's already freaking huge. To install a desk extension, place 3 T-nuts into the rails at the locations marked by the thicker vertical lines. Fully tighten screws once aligned. Insert screws into the top 2 T-nuts only and screw approximately 1/2 of the way in. Push desk extension over the screws, then slide until locked. Secure 2 top screws fully, then 3rd bottom screw. You're done. The desk extension is now installed and ready to use. Le moment de truth. Will it fit and will it hold? Oh, go. There we go. Not too bad. Fits perfectly, actually. Like a glove, like a glove. And it seems to be holding the weight just fine. There is
Come back to me, come back to me, come back to me.
If I put a marble on it, it probably roll off very slowly. So there is a little bit of a dip, but I don't know. What do you guys think? All right, desk number 1 is complete for now. We have to wait until the Elgato multi-frames can arrive, and then we'll install that once it's here. For now, this is about as far as we can go for this particular desk. And now that it's fully built out, I want to give it a quick measure just to make sure it's going to fit with the other desk that's going to go side by side against this wall. Of course, I did my measurements way before this project even started, when I was even toying around with the idea, and according to my calculations, fit no problem side by side. But let's just double check it now that we have the first physical desk right here.
doesn't?
That is just shy. We'll call it 83 inches. 83 inches, and that includes the desk
There,
extension, mind you. Without the desk extension, if you don't opt for that, you're looking at around 71 inches there. That would mean we need 166 inches, at least.
30
or
seconds
both
left.
desks will not fit. Please, 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 please.
One enemy remaining.
166. Do I get 166? Yes! Oh my goodness, look at that. 172. That means if both desks are smashed together side by side with not a millimeter in between them, we'll have 3 inches on either side. That is absolutely perfect. This is destiny. I'm convinced my dining room was made for this. I will happily eat on the floor for the rest of my life. Now just for the record, this is my setup. It's all black, pretty boring, pretty basic, just like me. I'll probably add some RGB at some point in this video later on, but this is going to be my girlfriend Mel's setup. And she's got a little bit more taste than I do, I'll admit. I want to take it up a notch and actually paint her desk white. That would include the tabletop itself, the extension, and I think it would also look nice if I painted the back pegboard white that is yet to arrive. And obviously that's going to take a lot more time than my desk, but I think the end result is going to be worth it because it'll really look like a his and hers when they each have their own personality as a... She's got a little bit more taste than I do, I'll admit. I want to take it up a notch and actually paint her desk white. That would include the tabletop itself, the extension, and I think it would also look nice if I painted the back pegboard white that is yet to arrive. And obviously that's going to take a lot more time than my desk, but I think the end result is going to be worth it because it'll really look like a his and hers when they each have their own personality as opposed to just like a corner of an office space. It is going to be a tremendous amount of work though, especially because I'm not great at painting. I know very little about it. Plus, I don't really have any paint stuff. Let's get paint stuff. Alright, we are ready to paint, and painting this thing is
Sage is on
a
catwalk.
process. So the first thing we need to do is sand it down. Got a handy dandy sander here, my good friend is letting me borrow. I'm going to sand this down the entire tabletop as well as the sides, just to get the surface nice and smooth so that we can prime it. We're going to be using this stick material, the Sticks primer, and then once we do 2 or 3 coats of that, let it properly dry, we're going to sand it again to make sure it's nice and smooth before finishing it off with a top coat. We've got some Benjamin Moore Aura. The color is Chantilly Lace. This is going to be more of a pleasant off-white, and we are using a satin finish, so it's not 100% matte. There's a little bit of shine to it, but not too much. All right, here we go.
One enemy remaining.
Sanding went pretty smoothly. I made sure to mask off all the areas we don't want painted, and then I wiped down all surfaces that we are painting for the Microsoft cloth to get rid of any dust. Now we're ready for the primer. I hope you know it.
Just some good old hard yakka. Standing in between us and victory. Reloading.
Rolling right along here. Our first coat of primer is complete. We're going to let it dry for 3-4 hours, and then I'll do another coat, let that sit overnight, and then we'll be ready for paint. All right, it is the morning after now, and our second coat of primer has finally finished drying. I just gave it a really light sand with 220 grit just to make sure that everything's nice and smooth before we do our first coat of paint. And actually, earlier this morning, I took that can of paint to the local hardware store so they could make an aerosol version so we can actually spray it on the pegboards of the Elgato multi-frame system, which just arrived today. So that's going to allow us to get a perfect color match between the tabletop and the pegboards. We're going to kind of play things by ear. I'm guessing 2 to 3 coats should be enough for the tabletop, and then probably 3 to 4 coats for the pegboards, just to make sure we're getting the inner rims of all those little holes and slits. Hopefully, all that stuff I'm about to do right now goes smoothly.
Hold on, let me done.
Impop. Can't use this yet.
Mark it, mark it.
Okay, we're back. There's been a lapse in time since the last shot in this video because there was a week-long thing called CES that I was at. It was a lot. It was a lot of time. It was fun. I'm glad to be back though, and it all happened right in the middle of this project. I couldn't get it done.
One enemy remaining.
But I'm back. My voice, however, is not. So guess what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas after all. But the show must go on. We're just gonna pick up right where we left off, which was painting the desk. And look, it's looking good. It's white. This was a very time-intensive, laborious task, but I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. And even with the light, you can't really see all the detail very clearly on camera, but unless you were really taking a close-up look and you had a really keen eye for it, you wouldn't be able to tell this DIY. I am actually very surprised myself that I was able to pull this off. Obviously, I had a lot of help from my friend. One of my friends, Alvaro, shout out to him. He helped me immensely. He actually knows what he's doing when it comes to this sort of thing. And a couple of the guys at the hardware store gave me some helpful tips as well, but I am so impressed. I'm shocked, actually, how good it looks. And that goes double for the pegboard. Now, I initially was trying to spray paint these, but the can was clogged, and so as I started spray painting it, I didn't do a test spray first, shame on me. It just started spewing out chunks of paint onto these things, and it was horrible. I was like, oh my god, I'm ruining everything. So I had to act fast. I just ended up rolling all of it. I just used the same roller that I used for the desktop, and that actually turned out pretty good. I have to say, I think it might have turned out better this way. I thought maybe there was going to be clumps of paint in between all the holes and the slots, but it turned out really, really nice. But moving right along here, the next thing we're going to do is set up the Elgato multi-frame system.
Bro's always hiding in the same spot.
Here's another set in there.
He's in the hut.
The foam is torn up because my cats love to play with this stuff. We're going to set that up, and then we're just kind of accessorize both desks. Huge shout out to Corsair and Elgato for providing all the peripherals and all of the fun devices that will be connecting to both of these PCs. We have two sets of pretty much everything, one for each desk.
So could you revive? They put a wall.
Plus, Facecam Pros. These are mounting arms for the Wave 3s, one in black and one in white. We have key lights as well, just in case the girlfriend and I ever decide to stream. These are some clutches that she brought from her place, and she's going to use to decorate her side, or maybe I'll just decorate.
I can hear you. Get back to me.
Corsair peripherals as well. HS80 Max in white, as well as one in black. And we have the K60 Pro TKL. That's going to be the girlfriend's. Mine is the K65 RGB Mini, and then our mice are right there. The M65 RGB Ultra Wireless in black and white. Links to everything in the video description. Go ahead and check out all that good stuff. One last thing I want to mention is I decided
Cypher here.
I'm going to remove this desk extension. I'm not going to use the desk extensions after all. I think they work great. They look fine. However, by removing these, it opens up a little bit of space in between the desks for a mini fridge. But not just any mini fridge. This is a New Air RGB mini fridge.
12 seconds, I can hear you. Shut the door.
I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, maybe it's a little too office looking. It's just to have.
I can wall off one of these areas if you want to come back in.
Something in the middle. I didn't know what to actually put in between the desks. And then I saw the mini fridge on Amazon. I was doing some research and I was like, this would be perfect. It's great dimension. I just think it's going to work out really well and look a bit less like an office space. So in order to get that fridge in there, though, I obviously have to remove the desk extensions. So those will just be put to the side for now. I think that's the last episode. So without further ado, let's finish this off and I'll give you guys a grand tour once it's all done.
Last player standing.
Nice, you got it.
The enemy only looks composed. It hurts till the defense team.
I'll buy somebody. Just request. Sage request. I'll buy you Vandal or something.
No.
Okay.
We go.
Turret out. Enemy down.
I can ult us onto site.
Okie freaking dokey. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
She's in market.
Whoa, whoa. Alright, I'm very excited. I'm very excited with how this all turned out. I don't even know where to start. My setup, as you can see, is very minimal. It's super basic. I just didn't want any frills, nothing fancy. And boy, did I get it. It's almost dull, right? It's almost boring to an extent, but it's really clean. I love this wallpaper. I just found it randomly on Google. It really shows off the black levels of the Xeneon OLED very nicely. The black levels, you can even see like there's a building. There's a building right there. I don't think you'd be able to see that on an IPS display. I'm just
I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that. The contrast is amazing on these things, but very clean setup, very happy with it. And then the pegboards, I wasn't sure what to do. I wanted to stay minimal, but I didn't want it to look bare. Thankfully, I had the idea to use my airsoft gun. It's a AWA BM4.
30 seconds left.
Serious. It just fills up the space nicely, and it blends in perfectly with the setup. It's all blacked out with some white trim. The rest of it is just kind of little peripherals and stuff, headset, cables, and then we've got the Xbox controller. Not much else to it. I did do a little homage to PC gaming with Atlas and Peabody from Portal. It's a classic, just very beloved Valve / PC game. So I thought it was a nice way to pay respects in PCMR. I've got some Govee LED strips behind the whole desk and actually under the desk as well. Just kind of illuminates it a bit, kind of makes things pop. Otherwise, it'd be very, very dark and just absorbing all the light. In case you're wondering about the PC, it is rocking an RTX 4090 as well as, oh, what's in there? Oh, it's a 7700X. I might swap that out for something a bit more powerful. It's perfectly fine for gaming and even streaming and stuff if I plan to stream, but if I start editing out here, which I very well might do because it's just a nice little environment out here, I might actually swap that out for maybe a 12 core, 16 core, something like that. But for now, it's good. Very comfy chairs. These chairs from Corsair. T3 Rush. T3 Rush, and then girlfriend's is TC200. And then we've got the mini fridge. Oh my gosh, this newer mini fridge. I was a little worried at first because
Okay, Google.
I was like, am I really spending?
How do you spell spontaneity?
Stupid fridge, if it's not going to work, but it actually works perfectly. I would only suggest splurging on it if you have the money to do so, and really going to fit in nicely with your room, your game room, whatever. But it looks great. Fit a lot of drinks in here. It's nice. Cold, mini shelves, they are adjustable, beautiful, and the RGB.
Holy shit, that's rotated.
So it's got dynamic mode, which is my fave. It basically just cycles between colors. It's not
Watch out for
chasing
RGB,
us.
so it's just going to be one color at a time, but it transitions very seamlessly between colors, and you can adjust the brightness on that, the speed. Of course, you can do like a single color if you want. It's got a color wheel and stuff on the remote, and it's nice and bright. It's just a very nice looking fridge, and I think it's going to look even nicer once
They're
that
coming
is
here.
in there. I didn't really know what to do.
Oh, that's you guys.
I
Never
wanted to
mind.
put something there, otherwise it looked a little bare. So I just used this Lucky
Stage 130.
Lucky the Dragon statue that they gave a
Spike
bunch
down
of
A.
viewers one year because it was their anniversary or something like that. I don't really like it a whole lot. It's not bad.
Last
It's fine,
player
but I just don't
standing.
like the fact that it's branded, making it look like an MSI.
Yo, I
cable.
low-key
They didn't pay
thought
for
that
this or
stage
anything.
was
I
our
just didn't know what to
stage.
do. I'll buy something else on Amazon or whatever that's more to my personal taste, but for now, it's a nice little placeholder. The girlfriend's setup is much more colorful than mine. I actually like her setup more, and I think the reason behind it is because it was a labor of love. It actually cost me a lot of time, effort, energy, and money to paint it white, whereas this one I just kind of followed the instructions and set it up. It's still beautiful, it turned out great, but this one just really was a labor of love, and I just love the way it turned out. It's all white. Well, it's white with black accents, and that's the other thing I like about both of our setups is that they're polar opposite, but they have the same color scheme. You know, mine's black with a little bit of white, and hers is white with a little bit of black. So it's kind of like a yin and yang thing, his and hers. It works out. All the RGB for her setup, of course, and by the way, she picked out all the stuff, like the plushies, and she bought little knickknacks and stuff like whatever this is. I just arranged it. She wasn't here. I'm sure when she comes over this weekend, she'll rearrange it to her liking, but I think I did an okay job. I added some of my PSA 10 Pokemon cards that, you know, whatever I could think of. Another Xbox controller, the Pop Bubble game that she gave me for Christmas, and some other little trinkets and stuff. Her system has it's last gen, so it's got a Ryzen 9 5900X, the 12 core, and an RTX 3080. So last gen, but still kick-ass system. And again, it's a 1442 monitor, so you definitely run whatever you throw at it. This little cloud thing, this armrest that she bought. Cute. More plushies. She really loves plushies.
One enemy remaining.
The chair here matches very nicely as well. It's gray.
Where's he at? Last
You
thing.
got gray accents on the PC. It just kind of works. Sit with desk mats that has never continued, so that's a bit of a vintage relic. Overall, I could not be any more happy with how this turned out. I don't have really good lighting in this room. Well, it's well lit right now because we have the studio lights, but without those, it's pretty dark in this room. I have a ceiling fan that's hideous. It was here when I moved into the house several years ago, but it hasn't worked since the day I moved in. I was like, oh, I'll replace it like in the first week, and it's been like 3-4 years. So I'll probably get rid of that and probably add some more recessed lighting. This is turning into a home reno vlog now. Basically, these lights, I'm going to put maybe 4 of them in here, remove that completely. Maybe I'll do a little chandelier because I actually bought some furniture for the rest of this room. If I take a step back, you can see that it's still fairly empty, right? We've still got some room to work with here. So I bought some stuff. I bought a nice little like modern looking shelf. It's kind of futuristic looking. It's got glass shelves that are RGB.
Where was he? Already on the site?
Robin Hood, no.
But it'll have to do. And I got a nice like black and white rug with like these circular patterns on it. Looks really cool. I think it's going to match very nicely. And then I have a glass table that I bought. It's going to go on top of that. It's got a chrome frame with a glass top, and then these really futuristic looking plasticky chrome chairs that I think is just going to like tie everything together. Got some neon signs for the walls and that sort of thing. So follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram. I'll probably be posting updated photos of the progression of this room as those furniture pieces come in. I'm super excited to start gaming out here with the lady because up until this point we've been playing any PC games together out here in the living room on this giant OLED with my HTPC, which has been fun. It's been a lot of fun. We've had some good times out here, but we're pretty much
Nobody on site. There might be
co-op.
somebody
Obviously,
for
there's
us
a lot
though.
of
So be
games, a lot of
careful.
multiplayer games that look super fun on PC that just don't support local co-op. So this will really allow us to just play those games together side by side and have a good time.
Yeah.
Plus, it's right next to the kitchen with all the snacks, so that's been
Because that's what it says on the
making
map.
it to the end of this video. I know it was a long one. If you enjoyed it, please toss a like on it.
Last player standing.
Trees, of
More
course.
content coming at you really soon. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next video.
In the news this week, we'll be talking about a wood-paneled InWin case following up on something they tried to do in 2017 before the Fractal North, but with the Fractal North's success, we're going to be seeing more wood-paneled cases actually coming to market. Additionally, we'll be talking about rumors of AMD Zen 5 CPUs mass production. We'll be going over stuff. And the RX 7900 XT getting price cuts. I'm on plenty of other stories. Let's get started. Before that, this video is brought to you by ID Cooling and the Frozen A620 series air coolers. The Frozen A620 coolers use a dual tower, dual fan design and come in both ARGB and non-RGB variants. ID Cooling has remained largely value-focused while keeping performance as good as possible. Up first, it's available in two unusual colorways, either various shades of blue with tinted glass or white with maple wood trim. This is another product following the trend of adding either real wood or wood grain to components to every app. InWin, we think, puts maybe a little bit too much emphasis on this gimmick because it really is just those two top and front panels. But the internal layout is interesting. The power supply is top mounted, which is at this point basically a throwback feature. This gives 230 millimeters of room for even the longest of power supplies, like the venerable EVGA 1600 watt T2. The power supply is mounted sideways to allow room for up to 420 millimeter radiator mounted sideways on the top. Pulling
What
air
happened
from
to
the main
Forrest?
chamber and blowing it into the top right area with the power supply. It also comes with three 140 millimeter fans included and supports both horizontal and vertical GPU mounting out of the box. And it comes with a GPU support stick. However, there's no PCIe riser included by default. That can be viewed as either cost savings for people who aren't interested in vertical mounting or an annoyance for those who are. We think it's generally better
Becoming a
to
coffee
apply your
catwalk.
own if you want to mount it vertically to save some money overall in the case. The F5 also features support for motherboards that have their connectors on the backside, specifically the ATF and MSI back Connect motherboards. Compatibility with any other rear connector boards that launched in the future by other brands is not guaranteed because not standardized yet. Up next, AMD's next generation of mainstream desktop CPUs, codenamed Granite Ridge, is rumored to be in mass production according to hardware leaker Kepler L2 on Twitter. The thread in question has the original post hidden, but when another user replied asking, is Granite Ridge already in mass production, Kepler responded with,
Last
yeah.
player
Sometimes
standing.
these
Oh, that's
leakers are
crazy. That's
incredibly
crazy.
cryptic with their information. For example, this
No.
response. Yeah. Could mean
Bro, how did that
anything.
rain and not
But
get
that's what we're
stoned?
here for. It's to try and interpret what they mean. We think they mean yeah. It's synonym for yeah. That's why you come to us for the news. Another user posted a follow-up
Match
question in
point.
regard to chipsets.
I know.
Any info
What
on
must be done?
X770? Finally, a single chipset solution with 4 PCIe 5 between SoC and chipset. Kepler replied, no. Prom 21 will remain the chipset for now. Prom 21 is the short name for AMD's Prom 2021 chipset that provides additional I/O
I'll take
on
it.
all of the current AM5 motherboards. One chip is used on chipsets like B650 or B650E, for example, and two chipsets are used for X670E and X670 as an example. Hardware Net's write-up of this rumor made a good point, which is that we don't know if mass production here means mass production of
Hold on.
silicon
There's a
fast
trap.
TSMC,
It's always on the side.
for the actual packaged finalized CPU.
What
Either
happened?
way,
What
though,
happened?
this could mean that AMD is preparing to make an official announcement for its Ryzen CPUs sometime within the next grouping of
That's what it took.
normal events where announcements are made. Computech would be the next major one if AMD doesn't decide to say something before then. At this point, the other companies often slightly decouple, but typically align with major industry events. Computech is in June this year, so
What?
we'll see what happens.
Okay,
But
there
AMD
shouldn't be
probably
nobody.
doesn't
Oh,
feel
wait.
particularly pressured right now by Intel's 14th gen. The next thing they'd really have to look out for would probably be Arrow Lake, at least in desktop. The 7800 XPD right now is
Oh, yo. Thank you.
So not a ton of pressure. Hopefully, though, as in some commentary, AMD doesn't become so dominant that it mirrors what Intel used to be after the Sandy Bridge, where Intel didn't do things anymore.
Joke's
over!
You're dead! One enemy remains.
Sage,
watch out.
How the fuck?
The CPU market is actually, that was the period when GPU reviews
can't
were
get it,
far
he
more
can't get it, he's in
exciting
his
than
ult.
CPU reviews ever were.
Yep, he just went back to his
Because
body,
CPU
outside the
reviews
door.
had
To your left, outside the door to your left. Don't push him. Oh, Jesus.
If it even had anything to launch that particular year, going back that far, now it's, now it's GPUs that typically are getting the refresh cycles more frequently, and CPUs have been a really exciting market. Anyway, we'll see what this does, but hopefully AMD doesn't end up being the only viable option like Intel was back in the day. Up next, AMD's 7900 XT, while on the topic of this company, has come down in price now. So when we last did a major update on the 7900 XT, it was just before or around, actually just before Black Friday. We bought one for $720, and then the prices went back up, and then they came down for Black Friday, and then they went back up again, and now they're coming back down again. It's like a physics quote or something about things going up and coming down, because it misses the part about and then going back up again. Looks like prices now are down to $750 for
Sage mid.
of 2024.
Nice.
A response to the launch of the new RTX Super Series, which include cards from $600 to $1,000. We spotted a couple different models of the 7900 XT that already had their price reduced on Newegg.
I think it was Brim mid with
Aries.
Aries.
From $710 to $730 at the time of writing, and that's down from where they were sitting before at around $760 with an official $800 MSRP at the time. That lowest $710 price we spotted helps AMD for value as compared to, say, a 4070 Super, which starts lower at $600.
Last player standing.
Models, it creeps up a bit.
Spike down
Even still,
A.
at $600 versus $710, it's not always clear which one's the winner depending on what it is you're planning to do with the card.
I know
Our full
exactly
review of the
where
4070
you
Super is
are.
up on the channel. If you haven't yet. We still have the 4070 Ti Super review and the 4080 Super review. So check back to those reviews to get a progressively wider picture of the mid to high range of the GPU market. We'll have some new tests and new games in the Ti Super review as well. So you'll definitely want to check those out because a lot of new numbers and games to look at. As for whether those 7900 XT price cuts will stick around, we don't know. Asus certainly hasn't gotten the memo yet with its $890 tough version of the card. Definitely not worth it, by the way. And AMD has a long history at this point of playing games with temporary price reductions that become effectively permanent. Up next, MSI confirms sort of 10 years of the Claw. This is where we would insert an interruption with the Toy Story, the Claw, Aliens quote, but I don't want to be copyright claimed, so just imagine it. So you pause, go look it up, and come back, get you the full experience of what we would do if there weren't automatic copyright claims on things that are fair use in our opinions. Anyway, it looks suspiciously like a black RFG ally, and this is from an IGN interview of MSI at CES. So we reported on the Claw previously, but the company now has some additional information in its interview where for some reason it felt confident to reveal to IGN that it's working on the Claw 2, 3, and 4. That is a surprising amount of confidence for a product that is basically just now getting revealed, but probably a good sign for how seriously MSI is taking the new market segment and its plans for long-term support. IGN asked about lifespan for the Claw, and MSI indicated a 2 to 3 year cycle. They said, quote, so just like our laptops, are aimed for users who use 2 to 3 years because game titles demand a lot more every 2 to 3 years. So at least obviously, if you play retro games, you can play MSI Claw for 10 years. MSI continued and surprise announced the next 3 iterations, saying, quote, so this will be only the first version of our Claw. We're anticipating to come out with a version 2, 3, and 4 down the road. It's already in the pipeline. And as the interview continued, MSI gave some reasons there might be, like, trigger point
Okay.
updates, basically, where it said anytime there's a major or meaningful processor update that could change the performance in a way that's relevant, and the plan would be to make a new version of its clock. These handhelds exist in a space between sort of traditional handheld consoles like the Nintendo Switch, and then obviously full-on gaming laptops, with the former being more of a convenience and the latter being less convenient, lower battery life, but obviously more powerful. Forerunners like the Aya Neo and GPD, and then later the Valve Steam Deck really sparked something with handhelds, and it seems like everyone is running full speed with it. So we're seeing a lot of mobile solutions as well, APUs, CPUs, things with IGPs. There's another leak to talk about this week, and this time it's a liquid cooler from the site. It's not the bad kind of leak, as in the cooler leaks. It's a news leak, and this is interesting because as far as we're aware, Scythe hasn't done a liquid cooler in something like over a decade, and that time it was an Asetek rebadge. This time it's different though. 9550 Pro on Twitter posted some photos of the unannounced cooler they called the GT360. This is very likely a prototype, so all of the details may not be final. The most obviously different thing about this is the pump in line with one of the tubes. This approach is also not fully unique, but it's particularly bulky here, encased in what looks like an aluminum shroud. Putting the pump in the tube instead of the block completely avoids any patents that Asetek holds for pump and block design. Other companies jump through hoops, like separating the pump from the block into separate chambers within the housing and things like that. That said, Asetek's patent protections will expire soon. As for the block, it's a big slab of metal with two mounting holes and the tubes coming straight out the top of one side. There's a removable top piece, which has a shiny circle in the middle that might be a display, following the trend of coolers with screens on them. Back to those tubes, the fittings strongly resemble a standard compression design for soft tubing. Since the tubes pictured here look like EPDM rubber or something, it's possible that Scythe is going for an expandable design. We're not sure about that part. Several other companies, though, have tried it in the past. So, for example, the EK, I think it was the Phoenix line. There's another one, too. The Alchemical's Ice Bear line. The idea has never caught on in a massively successful way. Price usually has been the restrictive factor for products like that, and then just long-term support as well. I actually have a EK Phoenix set up in one of my work machines here, and I'm not really that happy with it, just because in terms of maintenance, it becomes a problem for replacing parts. Anyway, we don't know exactly what this cooler is going to be priced for, or if it'll even get launched in the US, but we'll definitely be following it because Scythe's been producing some pretty interesting stuff since the Puma 2, really. It's been a while now. EK Waterblocked is announcing a new version of its Nucleus 360 CLC. While we're talking about liquid coolers, this is specifically designed for direct die contact and on LGA 1700 Intel CPUs. The main difference is a special cold plate. So this is designed around specifically direct contact only on the die area of the CPU. EK also includes a pack of Thermal Grizzly Conductonaut liquid metal for use between the die and the cold plate. It's going to cost $184, which is definitely on the high side for a closed-loop liquid cooler, but unfortunately it's becoming a common sort of price point now. It's less than building a whole custom loop and setting up direct die at least, but EK previously launched the direct die version of its Quantum Velocity Squared water block for $220. That's more expensive than the CLC, and the CLC includes 3 fans, a pump, and a radiator, so the price is definitely better there. All of this positions this cooler in a potentially interesting place for an enthusiast wanting to maximize cooling on a lower budget than custom loop. The cooler comes with a contact frame to hold the delidded CPU in place of the stock ILM, but doesn't come with the actual delidder tool. That costs $86 standalone if you get one from EK. There are other options on the market as well for cheaper. It also comes with 2 interchangeable covers for the pump block, one with a special skull design and one that's plain black. The skull is obviously the right choice. That way people on the internet can know how badass you are, just from looking at pictures of your build. One major potential downside, if this is something you care about, is a lack of any guarantees for compatibility with future CPUs, just because it's specifically designed for LGA 1700 solutions, and it's totally possible that Intel's next solutions are not compatible in some way. But if you're the type of person who just kind of buys it and uses the system for, say, 5 years, maybe less of a
cat ears.
Anyway, this is a really brief.
We got cat ears on our team.
White version of its P12 Max band. So this is no RGB, there's no screen, there's no transparent window into eternity. It's just a new fluid dynamic bearing, and then white. The existing black version of the P12 Max fan uses dual ball bearings, and versus those, the white version with the FDB should be quieter. We recently uploaded our tour of the bearing factory and covered the intricate step-by-step process of how bearings like these are made. It involves lots of washing, and being in the factory sounds like you're inside the world's largest pinball machine. Back to the fan though, and you should definitely check that video out if you haven't seen it. Max RPM is listed at 3,300, so it's probably capable of moving a lot of air for the trade-off of high noise, no matter what bearing it uses. It's already available on Amazon for $15, which is $5 more than the black version. Between the higher quality bearing and the white PC component pack, it makes
Looks like I gotta get back in this game.
The market. Arctic has earned a reputation at this point for offering high cost-effective fans and coolers in the past few years, so it's interesting to see the company start to dabble in more aesthetically focused, or what the industry might brand as premium products. Up next, the world of intellectual property. It's often a complex and exciting topic. You like lawsuits. And this one is about Take-Two Interactive, the parent company of game developer Rockstar, and Remedy, because they both use the letter R. Take-Two's lawyers claimed that Remedy's updated R logo might result in, quote, confusion on part of the public, and filed the issue with the UK and EU governments last year. Now, if you look at the letters, they share no resemblance other than the letter R, so let me check if that can be trademarked. Hey, I have a legal question for you.
Sure, Steve. What's up?
Can you trademark the letter R?
I mean, is it heavily stylized? Or, because if not, then no.
Okay, thanks. Bye. It's gonna be billable hours, so. We'd love to say this is a joke, but it's not. This is actually something Take-Two thought was worth their time to go address. As for reasons why they might do that, we think it's because they're having trouble seeing past the incomprehensibly large piles of money they've gotten from GTA 5. Whatever chunk they wrote there. GTA 6 clearly wasn't enough to clear it down. Down here on Earth, though, it's easy to see that those logos are nothing alike. Despite Take-Two's aggression, Take-Two and Remedy have already worked it out. Remedy gave a statement to Polygon about the issue, saying, quote, "There is nothing to see here. This was a discussion between our teams that was resolved entirely and amicably late last year. Unfortunately, it took a little longer to complete than we had hoped due to some holiday scheduling. The legal filing was simply an initial formality, and Remedy and Take-Two continue to work together in partnership. We assume part of the reason why the companies handled this so quickly, other than the fact that it's basically meritless, is because they're working together on remakes of Max Payne 1 and 2, so that probably would have been a little bit awkward. Would love to hear what happened in the boardroom or the meeting rooms when Remedy found it. Speaking of video game companies maybe overstepping, Ubisoft recently found itself in controversy with statements about subscription models in video games and for video games.
Is anyone gonna help?
We'd love to read the Forbes article on it, but we couldn't find the article on this page, so we went to PC Gamer. We couldn't find the article on that page either. Ubisoft Director of Subscriptions Philippe Tremblay recently did an interview with GamesIndustry.biz, with the main quote getting picked up on the internet relating to comfort as a consumer with not owning a product. The full quote provides some helpful information. It starts like this, quote, "I don't have a crystal ball, but when you look at the different subscription services that are out there, we've had a rapid expansion over the last couple of years. It's relatively small compared to other models. We're seeing expansion on console as the likes of PlayStation and Xbox bring new people in. On PC, from a Ubisoft standpoint, it's already been great, but we're looking to reach out more on PC, so we see opportunity there." The quote continued, "One of the things we saw is that gamers are used to, a little bit like DVD, having and owning their games. That's the consumer shift that needs to happen. They got comfortable not owning their CD collection or DVD collection. That's a transformation that's been a bit slower to happen in games. As gamers grow comfortable in that aspect, you don't lose your progress. If you resume your games at another point in time, your progress file is still there. It's not been deleted. You don't lose what you've built in the game or your engagement with the game. So it's about feeling comfortable with not owning your game." A little bit more here, just to give the full context. Quote, "I still have 2 boxes of DVDs. I definitely understand the gamer's perspective with that. But as people embrace that model, they see that these games will exist, the service will continue, and you'll be able to access them when you feel like. That's reassuring. Streaming is also a thing that works really well with subscription, so you pay when you need it, as opposed to paying all the time. Lots of things wrong with that, lots of flaws in that logic. First of all, there's absolutely no guarantee that, quote, the service will continue, or that, quote, these games will exist, or that, quote, you'll be able to access them when you feel like. And in fact, there is precedent directly proving otherwise. That was not factually correct to say at all. Also, you do literally pay all the time. That is the point of the subscription model. We've seen that companies will delete save game progress as accounts age and fall out of whatever threshold there is for indicating, hey, I'm an active player, don't delete my stuff. So there's precedent for that as well. Frankly, it's also a complete fantasy to think that a subscription to a game is continued past the player's immediate desire to play it for any reason other than an emotional attachment to the progress in that game, a sentimental value of the character in that game, and a fear that it's all going to go away if they stop paying for the subscription. So it is intrinsically a manipulative tactic to continue to extract money from something. People who continue MMO subscriptions, for example, and I've been one of these in the past, well past when you're actually playing the game actively, you tend to continue it because either you think, I'm going to try and play it this week, or you are just fearful that you're going to lose it, or you have a sentimental attachment to it. You put 10 years into this game, and you want to make sure it doesn't go away. Now, the difference with MMOs, which have changed over the years, but traditionally were on that model, is that, one, they tend to be a maybe 1 or 2 game selection of your entire library, rather than literally everything. And 2, they're not single player. So it makes a little more sense, a little more defensible on it. But to apply that to all games, especially the single player one, is nothing other than just greed. The biggest flaw with all of this logic is that, unlike a TV show or a movie, these forms of media have a clear endpoint of consumption. While you may want to go back and watch it again at some point, if it was the only media for which you subscribed to that service, and there are many now, you can safely unsubscribe to it. There is no progress to save, there's no hope that the company will remain in business perpetually, and there's no need for them to continue servicing that media other than to hopefully host it. We'll talk about that. Unlike games where there is a need for continual service on it in many of these scenarios. So there's also precedent for companies killing entire libraries of games or games standalone, and that fuels the anxiety that repels people from subscription services for
75%.
Like
okay, what up 1%?
Because there have been instances where it just goes away. And the final point here is that the barrier to entry for finding TV shows and movies elsewhere, even if a service is terminated, also makes it a lot easier to accept the fact that one day it may not be officially served by the original service on which you found it. Assuming that license isn't sold to another service, you could probably get it somewhere else pretty easily. It's just a video file, basically. Whereas with games, especially console games, on a platform that now is becoming increasingly internet connected at a hardware level, you end up with issues with piracy being a lot more challenging, for example, and that may truly just disappear one day, and even going a path of questionable legality may not be available to you. And this is a problem with things like publishers getting bored of titles because they don't make millions of dollars anymore. So now there's less impetus to support it. Anyway, that's the Ubisoft rant. You can subscribe to my rants through my new subscription service. And if you stop paying for them, then the ranting, well, it'll still continue. You just won't be privy to it. Okay, so that's it for the news this week. Thanks for watching. As always, subscribe for more. Not that kind, not the subscription service kind like the YouTube. It's free, it's a button you can click on. Let's move on. You go to store.gamersaccess.net and support us directly. Thanks for watching. Check back for the next GP reviews. There's a lot of them coming up, and we'll see you all next time.
Hey, it's Peachy Tech. Today I am going to disassemble this Asus TUF Gaming 4080 in order to paint it. So I know there's probably a bunch of tutorials on how to get the cooler off, but today I will also be showing you how to get the fans off because I will be taking those off and painting them as well. I feel like there's not that many tutorials on how to take it apart for painting versus like putting a water block on the GPU. I'm also going to try to take this RAM apart. It's the Viper Gaming Viper Venom DDR5. This is a 32GB kit with a speed of 7,000 megahertz, which is pretty freaking fast. So let's see if we can take this apart. We're going to start off by unboxing the Asus TUF Gaming 4080. This is an absolute unit of a card. If you want to see the RAM disassembly, skip on over to about 7 minutes. I'll put the time codes down below. This Asus card comes with the 16-pin power adapter, some cable ties, and an anti-fag thing. Obviously, we're going to have to peel everything off this card, so I'll be quiet. Okay, so if you're disassembling this card because you're painting it like me, this is going to be a multi-day process, so make sure you have a good place to keep your screws for several days so you don't lose any of them. So on the back plate here, there are 8 different screws and 3 types of screws. On the very right side here, these screws have these like plastic washers that kind of stick to the back plate, so I peeled it off since we're going to be painting it. We don't want to like peel. To get the back plate off, you're going to take off the 8 screws on this side, and then you don't have to worry about that like 4-cornered bracket that's holding the actual GPU in place right now. And then we're going to flip the card over, and there are 2 more screws that are kind of hiding that we have to unscrew before we can take the back plate off. So here's the first one. It's hiding on the side of like the logo and the RGB emblem, and then we're going to flip it over, and the second screw that's hiding is going to be on the other side of the actual PCIe. So with this unscrewed, you can now take the back plate off. It should come off pretty easily. If the thermal paste is kind of sticky, you can kind of wiggle it around and use a heat gun to loosen it a little bit. And you'll notice here, I had actually unscrewed the GPU like bracket thing, but you don't need to remove the back plate. So for just like painting the backplate and the shroud, you can leave that there. And now we're going to unplug the RGB and the fans from the PCB really quick. The connectors have a little tab you can push down, and then you can just pull it out. And now on the HDMI and like DisplayPort connector side, there's 3 screws we need to unscrew. I'll mark them here. Apologies because my head kind of got in the way of the footage, but once that is removed, we can take the fan shroud completely off. Alright, now this section is for people that are tearing the card down to water cool and install like a water block on it, or if you're changing the thermal paste. If you're just painting, skip on over to the next section. Alright, so to get this GPU bracket off, we're going to unscrew it kind of like you screw on a CPU cooler, go in opposite sides and like slowly unscrew it, don't do it all at once. And that upper right hand screw has that white sticker so they can tell once you've unscrewed it, it might void your warranty. My left hand, this is the actual GPU, and so if you're doing a water block, you can now like clean up all the paste and install that block. You do not need to uninstall to this part if you're just painting again, and remember if you open this, you should reapply all the thermal paste. Alright, now we're working on the fan shroud. We've got to get this metal frame out so we can take the fans out. There are 9 of these tiny black screws holding the bulk of this metal bracket, and then there's 1 screw holding in one of the cables and another screw kind of hiding under the tape on this metal bracket. So you'll have to break the foam to peel up the tape and unscrew those. I'm pretty sure I forgot about these when I went to go reinstall everything, so definitely do not forget to reinstall those screws. So here I am ripping that foamy tape just a teeny tiny bit so I can reach the screw that's under there holding this whole thing to the shroud. Now we can take this whole fan section out and focus on removing that little RGB emblem so we don't paint over it, and it's super easy. You literally just unscrew it and then pop it out. I love that you can take out all of the parts so easily on this card because I hate having to tape out little details. It becomes really complicated, so shout out to Asus for making this as easy as possible. I ended up just using my finger to pop it out, and now you can set that aside for when you're done and ready to reassemble. So now that fan shroud is completely ready to paint, there's nothing important on here, so you can paint it, run it over with your car, whatever, we don't need it anymore. Before we take the fans off, I ended up taking all the thermal pads off of that back plate because we're going to end up painting this, so we don't want the thermal pads to get dirty. I'm just taking them off and then gently putting them back onto the GPU, like where it's meant to go, and they'll just stay there until we're ready to reassemble. So these 3 fans are held onto that metal frame with tape and screws. So there's some tape on the back of it. I'm going to gently peel off these white labels and gently remove the tape because I'm hoping you'll remove them once I put everything together. And these are just what's holding those cables in place. So once the cables are free, there are 4 screws on each fan. So you're going to want to gently thread your screwdriver between fan blades to unscrew each of the 4 screws. So there's 3 fans, 12 screws total. They're these tiny silver flat screws. And all the fans are the same, so I'm just going to show you how to do one, and you just do the same thing on the second and third set of fans. Now that everything is unscrewed, you can gently lift up all the fans off of the metal frame. There's no longer anything connecting it. Now, obviously, we don't want to paint over these Asus logo emblems, so we're going to remove those. And they're super easy to take off. You just need a blow dryer, or in my case, a heat gun, to gently heat them up. Don't hold it on there for too long. We just want it to soften up the glue. And you guys, I feel so cool whenever I pull the back part out of my LG2 screwdriver. Like, I literally feel like the guy from Jurassic Park. But we're going to use this flipped logo emblems, so we're going to remove those. And they're super easy to take off. You just need a blow dryer, or in my case, a heat gun, to gently heat them up. Don't hold it on there for too long. We just want it to soften up the glue. And you guys, I feel so cool whenever I pull the back part out of my LG2 screwdriver. Like, I literally feel like the guy from Jurassic Park. But we're going to use this flat
What the fuck are you talking about?
And you guys, I feel so cool whenever I pull the back part out of my LG2 screwdriver. Like, I literally feel like the guy from Jurassic Park. But we're going to use this flat tip to gently pry it up so we can peel it off. And these are super sticky. Like, the glue on this is sticky, so if you put it on something, it might get stuck there. So I store them kind of upside down, making sure they don't touch anything. Once I've done that to all 3 fans, I'm going to gently try to unplug them from each other. So the 3 fans are connected via these little connectors. You can just peel them apart. And we're going to want to tape off those fan cables so no paint gets. Alright, after doing this, I realized I should have probably taped off the entire back of the backplate. So if you can tape off the entire back of the backplate, you should do that. But I mostly just taped off the parts where the thermal pads go, so the paint doesn't like get between the heat transfer of the GPU and the actual backplate. And that's it for the GPU. Next up is RAM. If you want to skip this, feel free. Okay, I have a heat gun with me today to take apart the RAM. So this is the DDR5 kit that I want to take apart, and it does have RGB as well. So that might make things a little bit more challenging. And here's a close-up look at the Patriot Viper Venom DDR5 set. They have like a little snake emblem on it, as well as Viper written out. Now I don't see any screws here, so I'm assuming everything's just glued together, and I'm going to pull out my heat gun, but of course you can try a blow dryer for this. We're going to gently heat up the side evenly, not leaving the heat gun on any spot for too long, just to soften up the glue here. Now I'm going to start gently prying off the heatsink. I can hear the glue like becoming unstuck, so just gently prying it off, and then I'm going to go ahead and heat the other side of it and repeat the same steps. So once this is nice and warm, you can kind of pry off the other heatsink and the RGB diffuser. The RGB diffuser also pops off of the heatsink as well, so super easy to paint. And then upon looking closer at the RAM, I can see that the LEDs are like soldered to the top of the DIMM, I guess. I thought this was interesting because I've only ever taken apart another set of RAM, which is the Corsair Dominator, and that actually has like a PCB for the LEDs that you have to like disconnect from the RAM itself. But there was essentially like a cable for the Corsair Dominators. And now I'm taking off the thermal pad and leaving it on the RAM because I don't want to get any paint on that. I also ended up using painter's tape to tape off the back of the RAM heatsinks. Okay, I've taken everything outside. We're going to need a respirator, a primer, our actual like color spray paint, a top coat, a bunch of different grades of sandpaper, and some rubbing alcohol. I also don't have like a painting booth or anything. I just have this massive cardboard box that I paint in to keep the dust and stuff off of the things that I'm painting. All right, so I usually start by sanding off a lot of the kind of graphic prints off of the stuff, the thing that you're painting to. So this is just a good
restart now then, buddy. We'll go downstairs and check. Okay. Oh, look at that. Look at you, you fucking fuck. How long you been doing that for? How long you been doing that for? Huh? How long have you been doing that for? Just a little bit. Let's go to...
Stuff to do first. After sanding, we're going to want to wipe everything off with rubbing alcohol and make sure it's completely dry before going in with our first coat of primer. Make sure whatever brand of spray paint you use, you follow the instructions on the back of the can to a T. So for me, that means shaking the can for a minute before spraying, using light, short kind of strokes. The instructions will also tell you what the dry and recoat times are. So for me, I needed to basically put a second coat before an hour passes. Otherwise, I have to wait like 48 hours. You can also wet sand between coats, but you need to wait for it to be dry to the touch. So that usually means like 45 minutes to an hour. So here I am just going in with a primer first. And then after the primer, I ended up going in with a fine grit sandpaper to wet sand some of the flatter surfaces. And here is the color that I ended up choosing. This is a pretty light blue color. So I used this on the GPU shroud and the backplate and then also the RAM, and then I went in with a white to lightly coat the fans. We're going to want to make sure we use extremely light, even coats on the fans, or else it's going to throw off the balance and your fans aren't going to spin properly. A lot of people would recommend not painting your fans at all, which is definitely an option, but I wanted them to be white, so here I am painting it. Okay, remember when I said the dry and recoat times were really important? I waited over an hour to recoat this and the paint ended up wrinkling and bubbling. It actually makes me want to throw up looking at it. It looks so disgusting. Like, I hate it. So I pretty much ended up having to peel and sand that whole part off and then wait 2 days to recoat the backplate, because that's just what happens when the paint like cures at different speeds. It just starts wrinkling and bubbling. It did it a little bit, you can see on the shroud too, so I ended up sanding all of that stuff off. I left everything in the garage for 3 days to make sure it was completely cured before touching it, because I don't want to get fingerprints on it. And then finally, after 3 days, I'm ready to peel off all of the tape and put everything back together. So for this RAM, I could tell which side had the thermal pad on it because it left kind of a mark on the back of the heatsink, so that's what I used to put everything back together. But the RGB diffuser works both ways, like you can flip it. So pay attention to which way you put it on, because I put everything together and I realized that the logos were facing opposite ways. But this is how the RAM turned out. I think it looked great, and now it's time to reassemble the GPU, and hopefully I remember the way all the screws were. So for the fans, the fan with the connector that branches off into two is in the middle, and then you can use that to determine which side the other fans were on. And you can look in my video too if you forget the way they were supposed to be. So I connected the connectors, and then I ended up taping them onto the metal bracket where that tape was. And then remember, there's 4 of those tiny metal screws per fan, so a total of 12 screws to put the fans back onto the metal bracket thing. And then before connecting the fans to the shroud, we're going to pop back in this RGB emblem really quick. Really pop it in, and then put the 2 screws back onto the back and lay the cable within the shroud so that it doesn't cause any problems. So there are 2 kind of semi-longish silver screws that go to connect that RGB thing to the shroud. There's also 1 smaller screw that kind of holds that cable in, so it looks like this. Or it's not smaller, it's like shorter, but the screw part is fatter. Okay, now that that's done, we can put the fans and that metal frame thing back into the shroud. Make sure the cable is kind of sitting in a place that won't affect the way that the whole section lays. And we're going to start putting in those black screws. And again, don't be like me. Don't forget to put back the screws that are under the foamy tape. They go right here. So there was that 1 screw that went under the foamy tape, and then there were like 9 of the black screws that just go all around the metal frame. Okay, now that we have the fan shroud kind of taken care of, we're going to connect this back to the GPU. So the first thing we're going to do is connect those 2 connectors onto the PCB. So we'll just lay the shroud as close as we can to the connectors and then try to squeeze our fingers in. If I can do this with nails, you can do it too. I believe in you. Once that's connected, it's time to screw in the 3 screws on the I/O part of the GPU. So right here, we'll screw those 3 back in. Alright, now that we've got that done, it's time to move on to the back plate. So we're going to peel off all of the tape from the back of it. Mine looks really bad. This is why I said you should just tape off the entire back, because I didn't realize how much paint would get up under the thing since it was laying flat most of the time, but I guess the paint just like goes everywhere. Now that we've got the tape off, I'm putting the thermal pads back onto the back plate and then putting the back plate just on the rest of the GPU. So we'll be ready to screw everything back in. I ended up flipping everything back over to screw in those hidden screws first. Remember, the one by the PCIe like connector and then the other one on the other side. I think I was just working backwards from how I disassembled it, and this just happened to be the backwards order, but you can totally screw in the other stuff on the back plate first. It might be a little bit easier. And since you don't actually have to take this little bracket off to paint the back plate, you can just skip this part, but I took it apart for the video, so I'm just screwing it back in. And again, we're working in opposite sides, so we're gonna kind of tighten things slowly from opposite side to ensure there's even pressure and we're not like exerting extreme force on any one side of it. Alright, so you should have 4 of these longer black screws and then 2 spring-loaded screws that will go kind of in this middle part, and then 2 of those silver screws with the plastic washers that we had to unstick, remember? Alright, now I'm just going to go ahead and screw everything back in, and once we're done screwing everything into the back plate, we're pretty much done and ready to plug this GPU in to see if it still works. I feel like the backplate ended up turning out really good. You can barely tell that I messed up the paint at all. And then I ended up putting these little decals on the front instead of having the original fan emblem. So I just printed these out on the Cricut, and this is what the front looks like. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you guys. Let me know if you want to see more step-by-step videos like this. And here is a sneak peek of the final build, which I will also be posting to my YouTube. Will you guys be painting any of your PC components? Let me know down below, and of course be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys so much!
Torpedoes to starboard.
Make sure you're not nerfing the crazy new gaming PC you just built with a slow SSD. Not all drives are created equal, so make sure you're not ruining your $3,000 PC with a slow drive. How fast your storage can read and write data will affect anything you do with your PC, so this is definitely not a place where you would want to cheap out on. This is going to affect everyday tasks like how long it takes to turn on your PC to even launching games and copying files over if you're a content creator. This video is sponsored by Samsung, who sent over their 990 Pro SSD, which I'm super excited to use for this video. I'm going to show you a couple instances with my old SSD and compare it to the Samsung 990 Pro so we can see the difference. My old SSD isn't very fast, but I didn't notice how slow it was until I started recording the benchmarks for this video. This is why paying attention to what kind of storage you're putting in your computer is so important. I better not catch you using a hard drive as your boot drive. Nowadays, I almost always use an M.2 SSD because it doesn't need any cables, but even between M.2 SSDs, they're not all the same. There are a couple different PCIe versions in market, and the most common you'll see are PCIe 3.0 and 4.0. PCIe 4.0 drives pretty much double the overall data transfer rate, making everything so much faster. With my current SSD, it takes almost 40 seconds to turn my PC on, which is unacceptable. Storage speed affects so much more than just turning on your computer, so I wanted to run this SSD through a storage benchmark. This benchmark is going to give the SSD a score based on how well it does on a variety of different real-world gaming scenarios. Some of the different scenarios are loading different games, recording 1080p gameplay video, also saving game progress, installing games, or copying folders over. My old SSD scored a 2048, which would have been a good SAT score back in the day, but was actually below average for this. Now it's time to upgrade that slow drive into a fast one. I was actually going to upgrade to the Samsung 980 Pro, but the Samsung 990 Pro is actually even better, with random read and write speeds that are up to 40% and 55% faster than the 980 Pro. The Samsung 990 Pro also has up to 50% improved performance per watt over the 980 Pro, meaning it can be way more efficient while using less power. Upgrading your SSD is one of the easiest upgrades you can do on your PC, so never fear if you haven't done this before. We're going to start off by removing the SSD heatsink. There's going to be several slots on your motherboard, so I'm just putting this into the bottom one so I can transfer my files over with the old SSD still installed. My motherboard just has a clip to hold the SSD in place, so I don't need to screw it, and then now all you have to do is peel off the plastic protecting the thermal pad and re-screw that heatsink back on. If you're just adding storage to your PC, you can skip this step, but I want to make this new SSD my boot drive so that I can see faster load times when starting up my computer. Samsung has this data migration tool that makes everything super easy, so all I had to do was select which drive my boot drive was, and then it just automatically transferred over. With that one change, I was able to reduce the time it took to turn on my PC by 25%. Before, it took almost 40 seconds, and this time it took only 28. Now, before you go and throw away your old drive, you can still use it to store photos, videos, and other documents while keeping the things you want to load fast, like your OS and other games, on your new drive. I also ran the new SSD through the same storage benchmark we put the old one through, where it compared different game save, load, and download times, and this one did 65% better, even beating the average score. Again, huge shout out to Samsung for sponsoring this video. If you want to get your own Samsung 990 Pro, check out the link in the description below. Okay, I got one sheep.
Yes. If you haven't seen this case, that's probably like, what the heck did he just do? And yeah, I hear y'all. This is extruded, not milled. Well, the holes are milled, but I'm not an aluminum magician, okay? I don't know how any of that crap works. An aluminum guy. So major problem number one is these handles don't come pre-attached. And the reason for that is you can use this chassis in a bunch of different orientations, standing up on the handles like I've already showed, or you can put the rubber feet in any of these holes, and then you can put it long ways like this. Like, I'm starting to think the more I look at this case, I would probably end up using it like this on the table rather than upright. Only because it's a little tippy when it's upright. Like, I feel like the feet should be a little bit wider, but whatever. That would probably be a major redesign in this handle. Like, it would have to like be a 90 there and then come out wider, but whatever. I think most people would probably use it on the desk like,
why don't you
like
change
that,
the radius?
with the rubber feet underneath it. But anyway, the issue was to attach these handles, you had to remove these little screws, and they're very difficult to see. We'll get some close-up shots here. There's these little flathead screws that go through this rod and into this cap. So this is like a steel cap. I do believe this is steel. As you can see, it's just round. So that little flathead screw right there, you've got to loosen the screw, which is just threading into this cap. So this cap plugs the hole where the handle goes in. Now the cap, as you can see, is round. So as you're trying to remove the screw, it's just wanting to spin the cap. And what made it worse is the fact that because they didn't want anything like rattling loose or whatever, there's a slight amount of Loctite on these screws. Yeah, it's blue Loctite. It's nothing crazy. I'm not about to apply any heat to this because even a heat gun probably would have helped, but I didn't want to discolor the metal or anything in any way. So you'll notice there's some scratching and stuff on the screws, and it's like kind of bent a little bit because the flathead screwdriver can't go in straight because of the fact that it's through that center of the rod. So it goes in kind of at an angle. And then as you're trying to turn, it's wanting to jump out because of the Loctite. And although this is an engineering sample that was manually put together, they did say they might have gotten a little bit liberal with the Loctite. So that's, they were like, sorry about that. And I'm like, well, there's got to be a better way, because what I ended up doing was, and I fortunately was able to do this without scratching the aluminum, but I took a razor blade, like a thin, like box cutter razor blade, and kind of wedged it between the cap and the aluminum body in the recess hole. You can't tell because his handle's there. That's recessed. So the handle's going into the metal. So I was able to create like a wedge that would give me just enough resistance to make it eventually turn. So the very first thing they implemented, and this probably isn't going to be all that cheap, because this isn't some like off-the-shelf machined steel cap. Like, I'm sure these are being made specifically for this. It would be super cheap if they were able to just like, hey, we'll take these off the shelf and just use them. But these are being made for this particular use. So what they ended up doing was coming up with this. So essentially it's the exact same like cap, only they've added like a nipple to it, for lack of a better term. It looks like a side profile of a very happy dude. Okay, I don't know how else to say it. But that nipple keeps it from being able to turn inside the hole. So that means they probably wouldn't even need to necessarily use Loctite either now when they're putting it together, because it doesn't turn, they could actually get that screw pretty snug. The one thing I did mention of this whole mechanism that I wish they had was maybe an Allen head screw instead of the flathead screw. No mention of that in the email. So maybe we still have to deal with the flatheads, but you know what? It'll be a lot easier now that the fact that this cap can't turn. So already you can see the company made a choice to, I don't know how many of these they had made already. They haven't started like full-scale production yet, so I assume there's not a lot of these made. But it's not gonna, this is something that's turned on like an industrial lathe kind of deal, right? It's a machine that's just turning them, lathing them, chopping them, and just, there you go, it's easy. It's gonna be a bit more work now to be able to machine that nipple in there. So they're incurring additional manufacturing cost, I'm sure, probably not a huge cost, but definitely more expensive than this, because of the fact that they recognized that, hey, this is maybe a problem. It's probably something people would only have to go through like once, but just one of those did not want to come off. I was able to get it off, but I was starting to think like, dang, maybe I'm not going to be able to put the handles on. And that's not a good customer experience especially for a premium product like this. It's, well over $200 for this case. The other thing we talked about, and this was a more major problem as far as I'm concerned, is the GPU mount. So as you can see, this skeleton here, or the spine as they're calling it, it's all rod. It's all steel rod, right? It's steel rod that's been kind of milled and made flat so that we have our light bar attached to it and all that sort of stuff. And then you can see right here we have this adjustable riser that allows us to mount our GPU. With the tall GPUs, we can push the riser down to get the top farther away from the top of the case. We don't have to issue with cabling and stuff. But the only place it mounts is right here. And this is almost more like a plug. So you can see that has two adjustable positions. There's a screw hole right above it, and then we're in the lower position right now because we did drop it down. So if I just take our 4080 and sort of like slot that in there real quick. So it's all fine and dandy until you realize, as I just tilted it right there, the GPU wanted to fall out. So it doesn't have anything holding it in place up here, which is normally where most of the weight is taken in the case, is something attaches to there. And as you do that a few times, that screw loosens, and then it doesn't hold its position. So what I said was this would be a terrible transport type of case, meaning if you had small form factor, you're probably going to LAN parties, or most people I know that are super into SFF like to travel on airplanes to go to LAN parties and stuff, and you might be thinking like, who does that? I know people that do that, okay? It's a very real obvious thing. So this would not be a comfortable solution for traveling in a Pelican case or something and not having this like flop out of this position. So what we're doing is right along here, this whole thing can shift up and down, in and out. Okay? So right now we have it sort of shifted, but they are going to be milling a long port right here that also has a metal block that's going to go on top of the corner right here that then threads into it. So you're going to have this block threaded into the GPU, and then that block threaded into a long slot on the frame right here, we'll call it the GPU frame. That then is going to give us at least our second major point of contact. So there's 3 points of contact when the GPU is attached. There is the slot itself, and you don't want that taking load. You don't want that being load bearing. That will break. It's plastic and small pin, right? The second place is where I already showed you where that screw is. That's normally in a normal case where those will like rest in a slot, so it takes weight. And then the third point of contact is the top screws, which hold that down so it can't possibly pop out of that slot. So without this there, as you can see right now, watch, I can just pull it up. So I guess I could if that screw was looser, but anyway, so that's going to allow us now to have that third point of contact, which is desperately needed. To me, this was the biggest concern of the current design. The other stuff like the screws and all that, I mean, that's problematic, but it's not major. This is major. The last thing you want is damage to your motherboard. No, I guess it wouldn't be your motherboard. This is a riser cable. You don't want to damage your riser cable. You don't want to damage the slot on your GPU. You don't want it flopping around and banging inside your case. You don't want to damage a fan or your wires. Because if we had wires attached to this right now and it wanted to flop out, it could be yanking on the wires. We know how the 12-volt high power plug is. We don't want to put any undue stress on that. So, anyway, I'm actually realizing just how good the damage is. Like, we did, with our review, we used the Strix card to see how one of the biggest cards on the market would work. As you can see, we'd still have room for a radiator and a fan right here, because this does have a fan right at the microphone. So, maybe, if I were to do like an AIO or whatever, I just like to look at build cases and think about what the builds potentially do. So I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. This video is probably longer than it needed to be, but I wanted to sort of show you this is what I love about working with brands like Thor's, is the fact that it doesn't take that, they're not this giant aircraft carrier of a ship. Although I shouldn't use aircraft carriers as an example, they're very maneuverable. They are not the new icon of the seas, largest cruise ship in the world that just made its way into Miami, that literally looks like a city. Yes, we've all seen giant cruise ships. This thing is absolutely ridiculous. It takes a long time to turn that sucker in a different direction. They are a speedboat. They're literally like, we're water skiing behind this thing because they are so maneuverable. And that's what I love about small companies that are just are able to be like, hey, we've got design people that are doing nothing but working on this right now. So let's make this change, let's make it happen. And they came up with the solution so quickly. And that's the thing, is we were like, oh yeah, there needs to be a thing. I didn't know what that thing needed to be, but they did. They saw my reaction and they were like, hey, here's how we'll do it. And I love that they came up with it. And you know, I like that new caps are kind of in shape. I mean, that's cool. All right. Thanks. I don't know what. It's time to go, okay? The more I talk, the more I'm going to dig myself into YouTube jail, okay? All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Links below. Go watch the review and check out the brand.
Hey everyone, Travis here, and Apple skipped it. 2023 was the first year in 13 years that Apple did not update the iPad at all since it launched in 2010. Now, there could be several reasons, and I'm sure there's a lot of speculation out there to why they didn't update it, and let's go over a few of those. For a brief history on iPad, it had an update of some kind every year since it launched. And just a few examples of that would be the first generation to second, which added on a significant upgrade to the processor and added in cameras for FaceTime. And then from the second to the third generation was the addition of the Retina display. Not only did the mainline iPad receive some type of year-over-year upgrade, there were also some spin-off products that were introduced, like the Mini, Air, and Pro. And these products ultimately led to the lineup that we have today. Currently in 2024, we have 5 iPads that are in the lineup with varying ages as old as 2021. The current lineup is 12.9-inch iPad Pro, 11-inch iPad Pro, iPad Air, iPad Mini, and iPad. Most of which have not received any sort of upgrade in over a year and a half or longer. Now, why is this? Personally, I think there's several reasons, and of course, Apple's going to keep those reasons to itself, but I broke it down to 2. One is some time for them to focus on a fully refreshed lineup, and the second is an upcoming product, which is the Apple Vision Pro. Now, I am super excited to check out the Apple Vision Pro and see what it's all about, so make sure to subscribe to see the content all about Apple Vision Pro. Now, the current lineup of iPad Pros, which I would consider to be the mainline iPad at this point, is basically the 2018 iPad design that has received some internal and external.
Yo, Scrap, shut that shit the fuck off.
2018 iPad Pro.
What?
I still use
Are you crazy?
So I think Apple's taking the time to do a little
What the fuck
bit
is
of
you
redesign.
listening to, bro?
The YouTube?
Shut that shit the fuck off.
Okay, OnlyFans.
What are you talking about?
You?
Make some sense, bro.
You make sense, bro.
Why you got a slur?
Okay, son.
You got a slur, boy.
I have
Fix
a
your speech.
slur? What do you mean I have a slur? Maybe because I have
You either-
CTE
you-
from getting hit in the head so much.
Alright, maybe you're on some drugs, buddy.
What,
Oh,
weed? Oh, I got high. Oh my god.
So stop smoking, nigga.
Why would I stop?
Shit obviously
What?
ain't help you.
What do you
Talking
mean
about
didn't help
CTE.
you?
You wasn't in no fucking NFL, nigga. Shut up.
What does that have to do with anything, you idiot?
You're not like
Are you
that,
out of
bro.
town
You
stupid?
got hit one. You
I
got hit once.
once.
Now you
Are
got
you
CTE.
dumb? Once? You think I only got hit once? How dumb are you?
So who the fuck fucked you up in your head that many times that now you
What
got CTE?
are you talking
if you ain't
about,
play
bro?
fucking, if you ain't play football, bro. What are we
You
talking
think
about
that's
here?
the only way that people can get CTE?
So
Are you dumb?
how'd you get it? How'd you
Are
get it?
you-
I'm curious.
You're out
I'm
of town
curious,
stupid.
Scrap.
You already told me what
I'm
you knew about me.
curious, Scrap.
No, you aren't curious. You already told me what you knew about
I'm
me.
fucking curious.
No, it's
Scrap.
too late. You're too
No,
late to
because
be.
you're slurring. No, I'm
Okay,
not trying to
I'm
be nice.
slurring.
I'm curious.
You're not trying to be nice.
I never said I was. I said I'm not trying to be nice. I'm curious. It's a difference.
You're not curious, and I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, me neither. Scrap.
Okay, cool.
What you talking about, bro?
Oh, what the fuck you talking about? You heard me.
You heard me? CTE my ass. You just chatting right now.
I'm just chatting. What the fuck does that mean?
You are fucking fibbing, Scrap.
I'm fibbing? No, I'm not. But okay.
Nigga drive straight
Tell
into
me
the
you're
goal.
out of
Come
town,
on, bro.
stupid.
Tell me you're out of town, stupid. You sound like some Boston guy.
Yeah, I'm from Chicago. Try it, bitch.
Tell me you're out of town, stupid. You're not really like that though.
What do you mean I'm not like that?
Chicago's supposed to scare me?
It's not supposed to scare you. Why would I need Chicago to scare you?
Because you're not scary.
The fuck does that mean? Am I supposed to try to intimidate you right now playing Rocket League online? What the fuck, bro?
I think so,
Get a
buddy.
life.
Get a life.
You're playing
Bro, all I
video
said
games.
was
You're
shut
trying to
that-
make me
All I
scare
said was
you.
shut that shit off. That's it, Scrap.
No, you didn't. You started saying you got a slur. Blah, blah, blah.
Because you was like, what are you talking about? That's what you said. What are you talking about?
So is that all you said, or now is it something else that you said?
Bro, you definitely got CTE if you can't remember what I said.
Okay, cool. I already told you.
Yeah, and I'm
Guy
just
denies that I
reinforming you.
have it. Said, oh, you don't can't have that. You don't play in the NFL.
How'd you get CTE, bro? I'm curious. No,
Look it up
now
and
we know.
figure it out.
Now we don't talk. I know how you got CTE.
I'm about to
Got
put
it
my
in the
YouTube
head.
video back on.
Oh my god, that's why you got fucking CTE, because you beating your head, you beating yourself in the head with that bullshit on YouTube, Scrap.
What
Cut
bullshit?
that shit out.
Educational content? Okay. You fucking probably have
Educational,
TikTok
you're
on
talking
your
about
phone.
the iPhone. What the fuck are you talking about?
The iPhone? Yeah, he's talking about the latest generation of the new technology.
Oh my
you
god.
dumbass.
And that's where your mind's at, talking about
Do you know nothing about business? Do you know what the two biggest
You
businesses
need a
in the
new
world
iPad
are?
for
Do you
business?
know what
Yo,
the two? No,
Scrap,
I
Scrap,
don't.
Scrap,
I need to
Scrap,
know
Scrap,
technology. You
Scrap,
dumb fuck. What do you think the two
Scrap,
biggest businesses in the entire
Scrap,
world are?
Stop
What
that
are
shit,
they?
Scrap.
Number one,
Stop that shit,
Microsoft.
Scrap.
Number two, Apple.
Stop
Over
that
$3
shit,
trillion of value in those businesses. So I'm sorry that you don't want to pay attention to the latest technology. But shut
Are you
the
invested? You're probably not invested, bro. We're
I'm
talking
not
about all this
invested.
shit.
What do you mean I'm not invested? Number one, I'm
You have no
monetarily
stock.
invested. I'm not only monetarily invested, I'm actually,
sound
my
like you're
career
getting
is
angry.
invested in it. My career is invested in it, and I'm emotionally and psychologically invested in it.
No, you probably only invested in Bitcoin, and now you're doing bad, and now
What?
you're mad, and I get it.
What do you mean only invested in
get
Bitcoin?
it.
I Bitcoin mined. I didn't invest in it, you dumbass.
I get it.
mined
Now you mine
and I
Bitcoin.
sold it on
now
a
you mine.
No,
now you
I
mine
don't
Bitcoin.
mine
Now
anymore
we're-
because at a certain point, the cost of me turning my fucking computers on became
Spit it
less
out.
valuable
Yeah.
than
There we
it's
go.
basic
Spit it-
economics.
spit it out.
Basic economics. When it became
Spit
less
it out.
profitable for me to turn those things on than I was making per
Uh-huh.
day, I turned them off. Right?
Okay.
It cost me $1.36 to run them a
Okay,
day.
Scrap.
Unless I'm making $1.37, I don't turn them on.
Okay, Scrap.
It's like basic fucking economics, bro. No wonder you
Okay,
lost at
Scrap.
the game. Have a good night.
I lost because you're ass, Scrap.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, keep telling
You're
yourself
dog
that.
food, dog
Keep
food.
telling yourself that. Oh, we're done with this.